The moon has always been high up, out of reach. But on this day, Yunli came into close contact with it. It was on a rainy night. The moment she saw Fu Shiai's, Yunli's heart started racing. Her face flushed because he was like the moon on a rainy day. The radiance he emitted was bright and unique, impossible to ignore. It deeply captivated Yun Li's gaze. It all started when Yun Li came to Manhwa City. As a video blogger, she was invited to experience EO's event and make promotional videos for them. They promised to cover all flight and accommodation expenses. But due to a flight delay and an unreliable person in charge, she waited until 2 a.m. with no one coming to pick her up. So Yun Li was very frustrated and wanted to send an angry message. But she thought better of it. It would make her seem too fierce. Still, anger was inevitable. She was here to explore and do promotional warm-up for them. With such poor hospitality, weren't they afraid of getting a bad review? Suddenly, someone spoke to her. It was a handsome young man asking about her intentions for coming here. Yunli immediately became alert and refused, saying she didn't need anything. The young man looked confused after hearing this. Seeing that he wasn't leaving, Yunli had to explain that she was waiting for someone and not staying at a hotel. After that, they stared at each other, and the situation became extremely awkward. It turned out the young man was simply attracted to her and came over to ask for her WeChat. What a big misunderstanding. It was all because there were too many people soliciting customers at the airport. The small incident was harmless. Since you don't mind, can I have your WeChat now? This was really pressuring. Now, even if she didn't want to give it, it would be embarrassing to refuse. She could only obediently show her QR code. But seeing his WeChat name, she thought he wasn't soliciting customers. Yunli thought, I'd be a fool to believe you. So while the young man was talking, she sneakily walked towards the main entrance. The young man heard the sound. Seeing her leave, he was very surprised. He finally realized and said he wasn't a bad person. He saw that Yun Li's dialogue box showed EO was near his school. But at this point, whether it was true or false, she didn't want to have any more interaction with him. She smiled and lied that her ride had arrived. The young man didn't suspect anything and even said EO was owned by his brother, suggesting they meet next time. Yunli thought, I won't believe a single punctuation mark you say. Just then, the person in charge sent a message saying they had arranged someone to come for her. After telling her the license plate number, they kept apologizing. Yunli finally felt relieved. As long as someone was coming, she wouldn't hold a grudge. Soon, a dazzling light shone towards her. The license plate appeared faintly through the misty rain. A young man wearing black with a hood got out of the car. The car owner had a cold, yet handsome face. It was said his looks surpassed even Sang Yin and Duan Jiaxiu. At this moment, Yun Li's heart was racing like a little deer as she looked at him. But he said nothing and just took her suitcase. Yun Li wanted to refuse and do it herself, but he only showed her his back. Yun Li could only stammer a thank you. While putting the luggage in the trunk, the young man's hood suddenly fell off. If earlier was stunning, now it was complete infatuation. After seeing his full appearance, Yun Li felt like she saw the moon on a rainy day, so bright and attractive. Until she heard the sound of the door closing, it woke the dazed Yun Li. Where the eyes go, the heart follows, and the body moves. Under his gaze, Yun Li involuntarily handed over her umbrella to shield him from the rain. The young man looked at Yun Li thoughtfully, while Yun Li shyly averted her eyes, not daring to look at him directly. In the end, he personally tilted the umbrella handle back, put on his hood, and said his first words of the night. No need. When facing someone they like, many people feel nervous. Because they care, they worry about their image. At this moment, sitting in the passenger seat, Yun Li felt completely uncomfortable. The silent atmosphere in the car made her feel like she was suffocating. Usually, sitting in the back seat and pretending to be invisible until arrival was no problem. So she mustered up the courage to thank him for coming to pick her up late at night. But he was a man of few words, coldly replying with just a Seeing no reaction from Yun Li, he then asked for the destination. Yun Li's heart skipped a beat hearing his voice. She hurriedly sat up straight and formally gave the hotel name. Then he responded with another. This was truly an ice block comparable to Siberia. Forget about warming him up, not freezing to death would be good enough. But his look seemed worth taking a risk for. Noticing Yun Li's gaze, the young man slowly moved his eyes. Caught red-handed, Yun Li felt extremely guilty. After arriving at the destination, hearing his voice again, Yun Li didn't dare to look at him anymore. However, the young man didn't seem to care much. After dropping her off at the hotel entrance, he turned to leave. Yunli felt reluctant and showed a worried expression. Seeing the rain falling on him incessantly, she called out to him without hesitation. Her body was already out of control, rushing towards him. Hearing her voice, the young man looked at her puzzled. Feeling his gaze, Yunli's heart started racing again. Using the rain as an excuse, she handed him the umbrella, explaining he could return it to EO tomorrow to demonstrate her intention. But the young man didn't move, clearly indicating he didn't need it. But how could she take back a gesture of goodwill already given? So Yunli just left it on the car as a thank you gift. Then she turned and ran hurriedly into the hotel. If she ran fast enough, she wouldn't hear his refusal. The young man still didn't move. Instead, he quietly looked at the umbrella on the car. After Yunli entered the hotel, she turned back slowly, full of hope, searching for that figure. By then, the car had already driven away. The umbrella that was on the car hood was also gone. Yunli immediately breathed a sigh of relief, showing a gratified smile. It's good that he took it. After a tiring day, lying on the bed at that moment brought release. Recalling tonight's romantic encounter at the airport, Yunli's face blushed, full of anticipation. She fell asleep with affection for the young man. They say you dream at night what you think about during the day. The protagonist did dream, but it wasn't quite what she expected. In the dream, the young man took her to an unfamiliar place. Suddenly, another man's smug laughter was heard. You were so cautious at the airport, but you still got lured here. He's actually the leader of our criminal gang. Unfamiliar with the surroundings and falling victim to deception, Yunli was scared and disoriented. To make matters worse, he just looked at her coldly. So Yunli instinctively stepped back, turning to quickly escape this terrifying scene. She only heard a whoosh sound. An umbrella appeared in her chest. It was the umbrella she had given to the young man, now turned into a weapon to kill her. Never speak ill of people behind their backs. If you must, remember to check if anyone is nearby, because it's really easy to get caught red-handed. That night, Yunli actually dreamed of being assassinated by the man she admired. She was immediately startled awake by the nightmare. Feeling scared, she suddenly sat up, unable to come to her senses for a long time. Realizing it was just a dream, she finally let out a long sigh of relief. However, this dream was truly bizarre. Just then, the person in charge sent a message to gather. There was enough time for Yunli to get ready properly. Arriving at the scene, it was full of technology. The participants had mostly arrived, eager to experience it. While He Mingjia was introducing everyone, Yunli was editing information related to the video. Suddenly, her phone popped up a low battery notification. She realized she forgot to charge it last night, so she asked He Mingjia for help to get a charger. In such a big store, power bank issues make you feel at home. No need to rent a charger. I'll take you to a room to charge. No unauthorized entry. 4 big words tailor-made for you. The seemingly empty room put Yunli at ease. He Mingjia, having completed her task, went out. The show was about to begin. Just as Yunli plugged in her phone, her best friend Deng Chuki sent a message asking if she was safe. Yunli said she almost died last night. This scared her friend, who immediately made a video call. Thinking something serious had happened, she was relieved to hear it was just a dream. The friend calmed down and told a joke to comfort Yunli. Then she curiously asked what Yunli dreamed about last night. So Yunli briefly explained the situation. After hearing it, Deng Chuki looked horrified. The borrowed umbrella turning into a deadly knife wasn't a good omen. She had to get it back quickly. In her mind, a creepy image of Fu Shiai's holding a folding umbrella appeared. Yunli quickly waved her hand to dispel it. Then she said a few words to her friend and hung up the phone. Suddenly, the sound of clothes rustling came from somewhere. Yunli's heart skipped a beat. Could there be something sinister? Following the source of the sound, she discovered someone lying on the sofa. And this person was none other than Fu Shiai's, who had attacked her in the dream. Yunli felt extremely guilty. Oh no, she was caught red-handed talking badly about someone behind their back. Fu Shiai's slowly opened his eyes at this moment. The moment their eyes met, it was as if the world went silent. Then Fu Shiai's handed the umbrella back to her. Looking at this murder weapon, looking at this umbrella, Yunli laughed nervously. She reached out to take it, then pretended nothing happened and quickly tried to leave. However, Fu Shiai's didn't want to take the blame. This is a folding umbrella. It can't be used to kill someone. Yunli froze in place when she heard his voice. She then stiffly turned around and looked at him awkwardly. Only a paper umbrella might work. It seems Yunli is still a good student. In this situation, she actually managed to ask what kind would be better. Her imagination truly left Fu Shiai's bewildered. Yunli finally realized what nonsense she was saying and quickly added that she'd avoid buying them in the future. Buying any kind wouldn't make a difference. Your little arms aren't strong enough. The key is that she even replied, "Thanks for the advice." What kind of hell was this? She wanted to disappear on the spot. How to get a man's attention. Try the reverse psychology method. After Yunli was caught bad-mouthing Fu Shiai's, she felt extremely embarrassed and mortified. So, when she saw him and another partner appear at the venue, she was determined to avoid him. But Yunli's unusual behavior was keenly noticed by her boss, Su Ching-song. He then thoughtfully looked at Fu Shiai's beside him. A man's intuition told him there must be something going on between these two. There was no escaping. After all, everyone was in the same venue. Moreover, now Su Ching-song was meddling. So when Yunli set up the equipment to experience the project, she waited for a long time, but no staff came to help her. How could there be no one? Everything was ready. Only Fu Shiai's was missing. Su Ching-song was waiting for just this moment. Hearing Yunli say she wanted to try the project, he immediately put his hand on Fu Shiai's shoulder, telling him it was time to work. But who was Fu Shiai's? If he wasn't willing, even the emperor couldn't make him move. Until he heard Yunli laugh and say she would refuse. His competitive nature awakened, and he turned around and walked over. "You don't want it? Then I'll do exactly what you don't want." He picked up the equipment and bent down to personally put the protective gear on Yunli. Seeing him suddenly so close, Yunli's heart raced, and she began to feel nervous. But Fu Shiai's was focused solely on the equipment and didn't notice Yunli's expression. After seating her in the floating chair, he carefully checked the safety of the equipment. This calmed Yunli's previously frightened mood. But Su Ching-song suddenly blurted out, "Not bad. He's handling it skillfully for the first time." This immediately made Yunli's heart leap to her throat, feeling anxious. Fu Shiai's clearly saw Yunli's fear, yet deliberately pretended to be a novice to tease her. When Yunli asked if she would fly off if the safety rope wasn't tied tightly, he nonchalantly replied that he wasn't sure. Then he casually tapped on her safety buckle. With great interest, he stared at Yunli and asked, "Do you want to try? Try your big head. You're scaring me to death." Su Ching-song, satisfied with the good show, finally smoothed things over by explaining it was just a joke. He then scolded Fu Shiai's not to scare people anymore before going to check on other projects. Only then did he officially assist Yunli in experiencing the project. After putting on the glasses, Yunli found the image a bit blurry, so Fu Shiai's bent down to adjust it. Seeing the clear image, Yunli finally relaxed and thanked him with a smile. But soon she realized something was wrong. She couldn't hear any sound in the headphones, so she was terrified when the chair started moving. However, she was quickly conquered by the thrill of floating in the air. Even after finishing, she still wanted more. When she reported this issue to Fu Shiai's, after inspection, it turned out the right channel of the headphones was broken. As for why Yunli couldn't hear the left channel sound, it was because her left ear was naturally deaf. Although Yunli tried to cover it up by saying she was nervous, her discomfort couldn't fool anyone. Fu Shiai still noticed it. What kind of personality do girls like in a man? Being attentive is definitely a plus. Fu Shiai's discovered that Yunli couldn't hear in her left ear. So when playing the game, he thoughtfully leaned in to speak into her right ear. Originally, after finishing the project, Yunli was planning to go back, but He Mingjiao wanted to be the host and treat everyone to dinner. For the socially anxious Yunli, this was pure torture. Seeing everyone enthusiastically agree, He Mingjiao noticed Yunli's silence and looked at her expectantly. Under double pressure, Yunli could only awkwardly smile and agree. At the restaurant, everyone was chatting and laughing. This made the socially inept Yunli regret coming. She really wasn't used to such occasions. However, when they mentioned Fu Shiai's, Yunli was immediately attracted. She heard a girl curiously asking about Fu Shiai's appearance and wanting his WeChat, but He Mingjiao blocked the request. Just as he was about to change the subject and ask Yunli, "Speak of the devil," the two protagonists arrived fashionably late. After Su Ching-song greeted them, he scanned the room with eagle eyes. Who was he looking for? Of course, it was Yunli. Poor Yunli had just found someone she was enjoying talking to. As a result, Su Ching-song used Fu Shiai's cold as an excuse to forcibly swap He Mingjiao away from him. "Ha, I told you. Under Su Ching-song's interference, you can't escape. Little Lily should just give up resisting. But just sitting there quietly is really awkward." Just as she was about to say something to ease the atmosphere, Fu Shiai's, the center of attention, finally deigned to take off his mask. This naturally attracted Yunli's attention. Earlier, due to dim lighting and not looking carefully. Now with such a close-up 24K HD view, Yunli couldn't help but marvel at how extraordinarily handsome he was. But a sense of familiarity washed over her. Have I seen him somewhere before? Thinking this was little Lily's pickup line. Of course not. Our little Lily is an honest baby. Soon, Yunli's attention was drawn to the delicious dishes on the table. Wow, going home after a great meal isn't bad either. But then she heard from beside her that there was a second round. Yunli's beautiful mood plummeted. Shouldn't everyone just go home after eating? However, the girls around her had already decided to play the telephone game. The losing table would pay for the second round. Yunli quietly tried to refuse, but the girls had already shouted start. The game was passed counterclockwise from the left. Yunli immediately looked worriedly at Fu Shiai's beside her because her left ear couldn't hear. So she quietly tried to explain to Fu Shiai's, but under his gaze, already lacking courage. Yunli hesitated again and again. In the end, she sighed deeply and still couldn't say it. But Fu Shiai's didn't ask further because he understood her predicament. Having failed to get help, Yunli decided to fend for herself. She perked up her right ear to eavesdrop. It was indeed a punctuation mark, but she still couldn't hear it. Suddenly, she heard Fu Shiai's call her to come closer. Yunli was shocked, thinking she had misheard. She froze, and seeing no reaction, Fu Shiai's looked over at Yunli. Of course, he was looking at Yunli's right ear. Yunli naturally noticed his gaze. Had he discovered something? So Fu Shiai's had to lean in personally to pass the message. And fearing Yunli might not hear clearly, this distance was not far from whispering in her ear. But hearing him recite a Buddhist sutra, Yunli was too stunned to feel touched. Fu Shiai's even asked if she heard clearly. Of course she did, at such close range. But the aftereffect was quite strong. Yunli was devastated, guessing if it was a Buddhist sutra. The girl behind had the same expression. At this moment, Yunli stared blankly at Fu Shiai's, guessing that he probably knew her secret when they were on the drop tower. Maybe he maintained an indifferent attitude and didn't say anything. Looking at his aloof and detached demeanor, if not 90%, at least 70 to 80%. In the end, it was still their team that lost the game. While everyone was leaving for the second round, Yunli quietly called Fu Shiai's to stay. He heard her voice, turned around, and looked at Yunli calmly. Just now when you asked me to come closer, did you know that I can't hear with my left ear? Some people have a handsome appearance. A simple warm gesture can make others dream about them. At this moment, Yunli called Fu Shiai's to stay. She wanted to ask him clearly if he knew she couldn't hear with her left ear. Yunli's meaning was very clear, but Fu Shiai's chose to play dumb. This made Yunli feel helpless. She had to nervously ask again, "Why did you just ask me to come closer?" He didn't ask directly, actually guessing that Fu didn't want others to know about his physical defect. So he cleverly used the game rules to answer, because we can't let the third person know. After arriving at the KTV room, Yunli waited for a long time, but didn't see Fu Shiai's. Looking around, she found that he didn't come along. Her mood suddenly became downcast. She couldn't tell if it was because her heart was lost or she just didn't like socializing. At this time, Hee-jung asked her to go to the bathroom. When they came out, she saw that her ear was as red as blood, and it was especially only the right ear that was red. Of course, when the boy she likes whispers in her ear, and at such a close distance, it would be strange if it didn't turn red. Hee-jung immediately showed a gossipy smile, asking if it was because of Fu Shiai's. Yunli hurriedly denied it in panic, but Hee-jung didn't care and continued analyzing based on her impression. Fu Shiai's, this 1,000-year-old ice, actually knows how to flirt. Fearing she would guess too much, Yunli changed the subject according to her wishes. Don't you know him? Fu Shiai's has always been working at the headquarters and was only recently transferred here. Speaking of this, Hee-jung suddenly got excited. Now there are two handsome guys in the store. From now on, their eyes will be blessed at work. But she's a bit worried about Fu Shiai's workability and how to get along with him. Hearing negative information about Fu Shiai's, Yunli subconsciously defended him. She persuaded Hee-jung by saying he was not feeling well and didn't want to talk. After a night of torture, Yunli returned to the hotel exhausted. She still couldn't figure out why she went to the KTV. Of course, it's because of Fu Shiai's. Your heart has already told you. and now you're blushing with a satisfied smile when you think of him. Even your ears have only just calmed down. So when Jiaming sent a message asking if she wanted to book a flight ticket for her, Yunli didn't want to leave in a hurry and refused. But there was another reason. Actually, she had run away from home after arguing with her parents. Hearing her brother's call, Yunli asked irritably, "Are you a messenger or my brother? Identify yourself first." After saying that, he definitely identified himself as her brother. He was planning to use reverse psychology on Yunli, but this trick didn't work on her. After all, it was her parents who were too strict. They didn't let her go to university outside before. Now that she's grown up and in graduate school, they still want to control her. That figure has always been in Yunli's heart. When they met again, she was still uncontrollably attracted to him. Now she realized why he seemed familiar. It turns out he was the unrequited love of her youth. Time goes back to the Yun family. Yunli secretly applied to a school in another city. When her father found out, he was furious. Disregarding her wishes, he autocratically declared that she must retake the exam for a local school. Otherwise, she should just go out and find a job. Yunli immediately protested angrily. She was already an adult. Couldn't she have her own thoughts? Unfortunately, her father wouldn't accept it. He insisted on interfering. That's why Yunli had to run away from home. But it was hard on her brother as the middleman. He was caught in the crossfire. He wanted his sister to come back to ease things, but going back was impossible. Besides, it was close to the start of the school year. She wanted to familiarize herself with the environment here with her friends. Hearing this, her brother completely broke down. "Are you serious? Aren't you afraid Dad will kill you?" Yunli wasn't stupid. With tension so high, going back now would really get her killed. Of course, she would take good care of herself. Only then did her brother feel relieved. After hanging up, she was a bit worried. There was still half a month before school started. She needed to rent a place, but now she had to put aside distractions and quickly edit the video. However, in the video, she saw a conversation between Fu Shiai's and a girl. The girl shyly asked for his help to experience a project, but he refused. The girl was confused. "Weren't you just teaching teacher Xinyan?" Just then, Yunli came to take back the forgotten camera. This was clearly differential treatment, but Yunli recalled Jiaming's words, thinking Fu Shiai's was just someone with connections who didn't work hard. However, scrolling through the timeline, she saw scenes of the two of them later. She realized he was just impatient, not so cold after all. Of course, it also depended on who he was dealing with. Just then, Jiaming sent over some more footage. Opening it, she saw a video that was particularly eye-catching. It was actually Fu Shiai's handsome face up close. Yunli clicked on it without thinking. The video started with him holding a remote control, operating a drone. Yunli was surprised by this unexpected footage. Suddenly, a sense of familiarity washed over her again, and this time the feeling was even stronger than before. A flash of realization matched the memory in her mind. After searching online, she found a certain national college student robot competition. The team in the video had won the championship in this competition, and the spirited protagonist in it was a genius who skipped grades to enter university. At the same age of 15, she was only in her first year of high school. With average grades, she unexpectedly got into the best local high school by a narrow margin. But this wasn't a good thing. Her limited talent left her struggling under the pressure of excellent classmates above her. It was at this time that he entered her world, becoming the briefly admired and respected goal she wanted to achieve in high school. This person was the 2008 science top scholar of the South Fu. Shiai's was the cheerful and energetic young man in her impression, but he was vastly different now. Could he be the same person she knew in her youth? What must a person have gone through to go from being as radiant as the moon before to now seeming covered in a layer of dust and withered? So when she encountered her ideal love after 7 years, Yunli felt no joy, but instead worried and concerned for Fu Shiai's. At this moment, to thank his friend for helping him find a place to live, as a return favor, he treated his friend to a meal of wonton. The friend took the opportunity to ask about Yunli's experience at the exhibition hall. Of course, it was good, being able to play and earn money. Who wouldn't like this job? Then he gossiped about whether there were any bloggers he liked at the venue. He didn't mention it during their phone call at the venue, so there must not be any. However, regarding finding his first love, he did want to confide in his friend. After all, his friend knew very well about his admiration for Fu Shiai's back then. Yunli only mentioned the words moon of the human world. His friend immediately recited that genius valedictorian from Shifu University of Science and Technology. He didn't forget to expose his old story. That Fu Shi Eyes, the campus heartthrob you've worshipped for 7 years, even pasting his photo on the wall to sincerely worship. This made Yunli so embarrassed that he raised a white flag in surrender. Since he still remembered, Yunli told him about meeting Fu Shi Eyes at the venue. He also expressed his regretful feelings about interacting with him. He's quite different from the Fu Shi Eyes in my memory, and in my dream, he even stabbed me with the umbrella I gave him. His friend also felt something was off after hearing this. His cold attitude now. How could he still be like the moon of the human world, shining wherever he goes? Yunli felt a pang in his heart about this, because the contrast between the two was really too great. His friend guessed if Yunli had mistaken someone else for him. Yunli also wished he had mistaken him, but his intuition told him it wasn't so. However, his friend's intuition was also quite accurate. He cleverly guessed, "Do you still like Fu Shi Eyes?" Yunli didn't admit it. Instead, he nervously changed the subject, urging his friend to eat quickly and accompany him to the mall to buy things. On the day Yunli moved, he suddenly had a craving for fried rice noodles. But his friend was working overtime and couldn't accompany him. He thought it was too late, so he took a shortcut. As a result, he was stopped by 2 drunk troublemakers trying to chat him up. The 2 were clearly taking advantage of their drunkenness to harass him intentionally. Yet they pretended to be playful, saying they just wanted to treat him to a late-night snack. As if anyone would believe that. Yunli trembled as he told them to let him go find his friend. As a result, they even wanted Yunli to invite his friend to join them. Their intentions were written all over their faces. So Yunli pretended to agree with them. Then he turned and fled without looking back. Just then, he unexpectedly ran into Fu Shi Eyes. He was alone, smoking under a streetlight. The troublemakers saw Yunli stop and shouted, urging him on, which startled him greatly. So he instinctively called out to Fu Shi Eyes for help, shouting Fu Shi Eyes, who called me and even got my name wrong. Yunli's heart was now racing, nervous yet excited, because Fu Shi Eyes not only rescued him, but fearing he might encounter danger again, he personally escorted him. Actually, when he heard Yunli mispronounce his name, Fu Shi Eyes was a bit angry inside and didn't want to pay attention to him. But seeing Yunli's anxious, rabbit-like plea for help, his eyes softened, and his heart couldn't bring itself to ignore him. He raised his hand, gesturing for him to come over. At this point, Yunli finally felt relieved and let out a sigh. The next second, he surprisingly heard that they knew each other. The feeling of fear welled up again, thinking they were in cahoots. My goodness, your imagination is really running wild. Be careful. If Fu Shi Eyes knows, he might not save you. When he heard the troublemakers say they wanted Yunli to accompany them for a late-night snack and wouldn't do anything else, Fu Shi Eyes didn't believe it at first, so he gave Yunli the choice, asking if he was willing. Yunli immediately waved his hands and shook his head in denial. Sensing Yunli's fear, he stood up for him and told the troublemakers to apologize. The troublemakers, emboldened by alcohol, forgot who was in charge and raised their fists, wanting to fight. Want to fight? Come and try. See if you can beat your father. The troublemakers were frightened by his piercing gaze. They deflated like balloons, then reluctantly said, sorry. Of course, this apology lacked sincerity, so Fu Shi Eyes threatened them to say it again. It was frustrating, but they had no choice but to comply. Only then, in front of everyone, did they properly apologize to Yunli with a string of words. Having successfully heard the apology, Yunli chose to forgive them, but was still shaken. After the 2 troublemakers fled like refugees, Yunli slowly walked to his side and sincerely said thank you. However, Fu Shi Eyes brought up an issue. What did you call me earlier? Yunli hadn't realized he had mispronounced his name and foolishly called it out again. At this point, Fu Shi Eyes discovered another secret about Yunli. It turns out he can't distinguish between flat and curled tongue sounds when nervous. When Yunli heard him personally correct his name, he felt extremely embarrassed. How could his quirk be discovered by him again and again? He wanted to disappear on the spot. He could only muster the courage to say it wasn't intentional. After the explanation, Fu Shi Eyes didn't mind, but was curious how he knew his name. Oh no, he had called out his name earlier when he was too nervous. 2 options immediately flashed in his mind, searching on Baidu or or hearing it from someone. The former seemed too creepy, so he decisively chose the latter. Fu Shiai's didn't suspect anything and continued to ask about his purpose for being out so late. After telling him he was about to go back and order takeout, but Fu Shiai's asked where the place was. Yunli pointed to a spot not far away. Suddenly, he turned around and said, "Let's go." Hearing his words, Yunli was very surprised. Then he stared blankly at the broad back in front of him. If you asked how Yunli felt at this moment, it was probably like winning a 5 million jackpot. The feeling was more or less the same. How lucky. Buying a late-night snack actually led to meeting his first love, and he even voluntarily became my bodyguard to escort me. Have you ever experienced being rejected by someone you like? Fate allowed Yun Li to meet Fu Shiai's again, so he wanted to seize the opportunity and ask Fu Shiai's for his contact information. But he was rejected. After packing up the late-night snack, the two walked back in silence. Yunli wanted to find a topic to break the awkwardness. Suddenly remembering those two troublemakers, he wondered how they knew each other since they seemed so different. But before he could ask, Fu Shiai's had already completed his task and told him to go home early. Hearing his voice, Yunli instinctively replied, "Okay." But in the second he took a step, a sense of loss suddenly arose. It made him turn back to look at Fu Shiai's. At that moment, the mall was playing Fish Liang's Courage. Each lyric encouraged Yun Li's heart. This was the person he had been longing for. He was standing right in front of him now. If he left like this, it might be their last meeting. But he didn't want to end it this way. Since he dared to think about it, he should take action. He turned around and nervously asked, Can I get your contact information?" Fu Shiai's heard this and looked up at him calmly. Under his gaze, Yunli became even more nervous. He could only take a step back, using the cold medicine as an excuse. So Fu Shiai's didn't think much about it and politely declined, telling Yunli not to be traumatized by what happened with his friends. "With you here, no trauma exists. But without you, no one would see his embarrassing state." It was his first time asking someone for their number, and he was rejected. A strange sense of loss and embarrassment welled up in his heart. He could only wish him a speedy recovery. Then he quickly fled from his side. Fu Shiai's looked thoughtful, watching Yun Li's back. He seemed to have realized something. After returning, Yun Li's mindset completely collapsed. Was he possessed earlier? Why did he do such a thing? It was so embarrassing and awkward. Suddenly, his stomach growled, interrupting his emotions. He then realized that eating was more important. After all, he had gone through trouble to buy this late-night snack. Just then his phone rang. The notification sound was set for his 500,000 followers live stream. Bonus reminder. It was perfect for him to do an eating broadcast to divert his attention. Although Yun Li was trying hard to maintain a smile during the live stream, some sharp-eyed viewers still noticed that he was in a bad mood. Yun Li patiently replied to the viewers' questions one by one. But when he saw comments about him being autistic, he started to panic. So when reading this comment, he mispronounced it due to his accent. So the fans kept posting comments discussing it. At this moment, Yun Li remembered that Fu Shiai's had also said this to him earlier. So much for diverting his attention. The more he tried to avoid it, the more he couldn't shake it off. It was Yun Li's first time asking for contact information from someone he liked. Besides embarrassment from being politely rejected, he actually felt a bit hurt deep down. During the live stream, fans again noticed his inability to distinguish between flat and curled tongue sounds. So in the process of proving himself to the fans, he added a bit of personal emotion and cursed Fu Shiai's. On the other side, Fu Shiai's, carrying the late-night snack for his grandfather, got into the car Su Qing-song sent. Su Qing-song suggested taking him somewhere else to have fun first. Fu Shiai's maintained his cold demeanor and refused to go. This made him a bit puzzled. With such a personality, how could so many girls like him and ask for his WeChat? But complaints aside, just as he was about to close the navigation and drive, he accidentally clicked into Yun Li's live stream. The moment he saw Yun Li, he exclaimed in surprise, "Aze, isn't this the girl who sat next to you that day?" Fu Shiai's, who had his eyes closed, was attracted by this and opened them. On the screen, Yun Li was responding to fans' requests, pronouncing Shiai's in Shirja. He looks like a wolf, but is actually a dog. I didn't expect to see such an interesting thing. Su Qing-song teased, "Fu, you're being insulted. He called you a dog." Yun Li realized he had misspoken and hurriedly tried to cover it up. This was clearly a case of the guilty party protesting too much. Fu Shiai's had already heard the complaint in his words. Realizing he had made a mistake, he quickly ended the live stream. At this moment, Yunli felt dissatisfied and ashamed. How could he blurt out an insult? The other person had the right to refuse, but he still felt very sad. Knowing that he wasn't interested in him and wouldn't see the live stream, why did he care? Because you like him, that's why you care. However, his emotional intelligence had truly taken a hit, but as time passed, his mood had now adjusted back. After filming his content, his best friend happened to call. Yunli started with, "Aren't you working overtime today?" This annoyed his friend, but she still invited him to eat together. But hearing there would be other people, Yunli didn't want to go. However, he couldn't resist his friend's persuasion. In the end, he obediently went to the appointment, not forgetting to bring the towel rolls he had made. Originally, he wanted to message and ask for the specific location to go by himself, but his friend came out to welcome him personally. This made Yunli feel a bit flattered. It turned out she was afraid Yunli would run away, because his friend had brought two super handsome relatives. So with such a good opportunity, how could she forget about Yunli? Guess who these two handsome guys are, everyone? The world is so big, but it seems so small. Fate made Yunli meet Fu Shiai's again. This should have been good news to be happy about. But Yunli was so embarrassed he wanted to disappear on the spot. At this moment, hearing his friend say there were handsome guys in the private room, Yunli only felt scared and his scalp tingled. Whether flat or round, handsome or ugly, they were all strangers to him. His social anxiety kicked in, and he just wanted to run away quickly. His friend immediately grabbed him, insisting on the principle of "since you're here already." Her mouth was like a machine gun, talking nonstop. She didn't even leave him a chance to interject. In the end, he was pulled in, so Yunli resigned himself to his fate. After all, it was just three strangers. He could pretend to be dead, finish the meal, and slip away. But man proposes, God disposes. After greeting his friend's roommate, he saw the two guys next to her. He was extremely shocked. That's right, it was Fu Shiai's and Fu Zhengqiu. One was as calm as an old ox. The other showed an equally surprised expression. The one as calm as an old ox defiantly averted his gaze. But Fu Zhengqiu couldn't stay calm. Pointing at himself, he asked, "Do you remember me?" The two intermediaries were equally surprised to hear this. They actually knew each other. How could they not know each other? He had just arrived in Manhwa when he encountered them, saving a life. One was mistaken for a scammer, and the other sent him back to the hotel. If Fu Zhengqiu hadn't messaged the studio, Yunli would probably have spent the whole night feeding mosquitoes at the airport. Hearing the words, "young uncle," Yunli thought he was hearing things. He wasn't hearing things. Fu Shiai's was indeed his young uncle. Although they were the same age, their generational difference was indeed quite large. Then he curiously asked, "So you two must have met before, right?" Fu Shiai's immediately looked up at Yunli. Feeling his gaze, Yunli nervously avoided it, not daring to look directly. While anxiously admitting it, he secretly tugged at his best friend's clothes, signaling for help. They had not only met and been refused WeChat, but he had also insulted him during the live stream. His best friend also received Yunli's signal and quickly changed the subject. But later, the conversation circled back because Fu Zhengqiu and Yunli were both students at South University of Technology. With school starting soon and needing to report in, Fu Shiai's was going to send Fu Zhengqiu anyway. Since it was convenient, he suggested taking Yunli along. Yunli was so anxious upon hearing this news that he choked on some chili. Wouldn't this make things even more awkward for them? So he coughed while refusing, but his voice seemed too low for anyone to hear. Instead, he was choking badly and wanted to find some water. At this moment, someone across from him pushed over a glass of water. Hearing the sound of the glass, Yunli finally opened his eyes. The person who gave him water was Fu Shiai's. Among the four people present, only Fu Shiai's noticed his situation. It really was a case of speak of the devil. Yunli was already embarrassed about being refused WeChat. He didn't expect to be publicly humiliated in front of the person involved. Regarding riding in Fu Shiai's car to school, Yunli felt uncomfortable and wanted to refuse. But Fu Zhengqiu had already made the decision. He even looked at his uncle with a smile that said no refusal allowed. Fu Shiai's immediately looked at Yunli to ask for his opinion. It was really being forced into a corner. Refusing now would be a bit of a mood killer, so he agreed. Since the girl had no objections, he naturally didn't mind either. At this moment, Yunli was a bit happy inside. By chance, they had a new connection. But seeing him return to that cold demeanor, she wondered if he was willing or unwilling. Never mind whether he's willing or not, because your big social death scene is about to happen. Their conversation suddenly brought up the incident of asking for WeChat. Xiat Songsheng looked worried, lamenting that he encountered a jerk on his first try. That time, his brother was inviting parents. Seeing his classmate's handsome brother, he became interested. At this moment, Yun Li's heart skipped a beat. Wasn't this another version of himself? Back then, he was just like Xiat Songsheng. Fu Zhengqiu could answer this question. It was Sang Ji's brother. That's right. This guy said he changed girlfriends every day. This month he happened to be short one. If he was willing, he'd give him one. The memory was still fresh. It almost made him furious. So he irritably let others continue to spill the beans. After Fu Zhengqiu finished speaking, Xiat Songsheng felt it was boring and urged for the next one. Then everyone looked at Yun Li with gossipy eyes, except for the one as calm as an old ox. Yun Li could only lower her eyes uncomfortably, tucking her hair while answering honestly. Deng Chuki, familiar with her best friend's social anxiety, was very shocked to hear this, and it was recent too. She immediately asked nervously. The result was equally surprising for that old ox. At this moment, he learned that it was Yun Li's first time. Seemingly feeling Fu Shiai's gaze, she glanced over and answered he didn't give it. The two girls found it unbelievable after hearing this. After all, Yun Li was quite pretty, but the bigger their reaction, the more embarrassed Yun Li felt. She quickly reassured them it was fine. Little did she know that her forced smile in Xiat Songsheng's eyes looked as delicate as Lin Daiyu. Thinking she had caused trouble, she laughed and pulled Fu Jingqiu's sleeve, asking him to say some comforting words too. Since he also joined in the teasing, he had to reluctantly speak up. Of course, he didn't forget to involve Fu Shiai's beside him. At this moment, Yun Li felt extremely embarrassed. Help, how did it turn out like this? Little Li, don't be anxious. Stay calm. This is the author's compensation benefit for you. However, Fu Shiai's remained calm and asked, say what? How come this uncle needs his nephew to teach him how to comfort people? Why not just say the other person is gay? That's too ridiculous. He's just indifferent to desires. Yun Li was so embarrassed she wanted to die. She quickly tried to end this deadly situation. As embarrassed as Yun Li was a second ago, her mood now was just as shocked because of Fu Shiai's WeChat. He finally added her. But before adding him, Yun Li almost died on the spot because Fu Zhengqiu was forcing his uncle to admit he was gay. Naturally, Fu Shiai's refused. Knowing the inside story, Yun Li quickly laughed awkwardly to smooth things over, saying she was really fine and it wasn't her first time asking for WeChat. Sigh. Uncle couldn't be relied on. So, Xiat Songsheng simply used adding WeChat to ease the atmosphere. Just then, Fu Zhengqiu also came to join in. Seeing his uncle still motionless like a tortoise, the siblings took turns teasing Fu Shiai's for being unsociable. He could only helplessly give in and hand over his WeChat QR code. Fu Zhengqiu, satisfied with the result, showed it to the opposite side, while continuously nagging about his uncle's solitary personality. While Deng Chuki was adding the WeChat, Yun Li didn't dare to hope. After all, she had just been rejected not long ago. So at this moment, Deng Chuki once again became the divine wingman, personally taking her phone. With the beep of the QR code scan, Yun Li's heart skipped a beat. When the phone was returned, Fu Shiai's WeChat profile was already on the screen. At this moment, Yun Li shyly gazed at his face, her heartbeat thundering in her ears. She actually added his WeChat. It felt like a dream. The dark clouds in her heart also disappeared completely. So for the requests Deng Chuki made later, she agreed to all of them. After eating, they went to the supermarket to shop for daily necessities. Xiat Songsheng accidentally noticed Yun Li holding a pile of things. Looking around, he couldn't find Fu Zhengqiu pushing the shopping cart. So he asked his uncle to come over and help take them to put in the shopping cart. And Fu Shiai's was obedient, dutifully walking to Yun Li's side and taking them away. At this moment, Deng Chuki watched his departing figure with a surprised look. She quietly reported to Xiat Songsheng, "Damn, your little uncle looks like a high and mighty flower, a cold air conditioner. But how come he's still quite obedient?" Yun Li, as if discovering a new continent, was shocked. In her mind, she automatically replayed his appearance just now. It seems what was said is indeed correct. He does look a bit obedient, but it also depends on who it is and what he's asked to do. During this time, they ran into Sang Ji and the other four, but Fu Shiai's didn't pay them any attention. Fu Zhengqiu was very dissatisfied with this, and even made a gesture to help Yun Li seek justice. Yun Li indicated it wasn't necessary. However, he was still audacious, putting his arm around Fu Shiai's shoulder, and in the position of a junior, spouted a bunch of platitudes, teaching his uncle how to deal with people and situations. Fu Shiai's brushed off his hand and coldly replied with a, This caught Yun Li's strong attention. He actually listened. How is that possible? Only to see him unbuckle Fu Jingchu's seatbelt. Again, he coldly replied, Get off. These two words confused Fu Jingchu. They were going the same way. Why ask him to get off? Because I can't learn what you taught. Afraid of getting beaten and holding you back. This left Fu Jingchu angry, but not daring to speak, obediently fastening his seatbelt again. A smile doesn't disappear, it just transfers. This instantly amused Yun Li greatly. The girl's laughter was pleasant to the ear, attracting Fu Shiai's gaze. He couldn't help but look back at her smile. Successfully adding Fu Shiai's WeChat, Yun Li was really happy. But she didn't dare to widely publicize this joy, nor did she dare to hope for more. Getting his contact information was already very good. Now hearing that he didn't have a girlfriend, she felt inexplicably happier in her heart, delighted. This time, the three girls had a comfortable night talk, during which they talked about whether Fu Shiai's and Fu Zhengchu had girlfriends. Xia Songxing answered no. Afterwards, thinking they were interested in them, they even wanted to play matchmaker and help set them up. When it came to the topic of liking someone, Yun Li remained silent, not daring to make a sound. Instead, Deng Chuki frankly said she wasn't interested. One was too cold, the other too silly. Not as good as her subway guy. Xia Songxing agreed 100% with this summary. It was spot on. However, at this moment, Yun Li was immersed in her own world. She didn't want to tell others about liking Fu Shiai's, only wanting to rely on her own efforts. For now, adding WeChat was already a big step forward. Suddenly, Deng Chuki shook Yun Li out of her daze, concernedly asking if she had found a job. Because she was struggling between being a full-time blogger or finding a stable job, she hadn't found one yet. That's simple. Find an easier job and keep blogging as a side gig. Best of both worlds. In recommending a job to Yun Li, this couldn't be better. It finally solved a big problem for Yun Li. At this point, they had basically finished chatting. It was also time to go to sleep. Yun Li and Deng Chuki were arranged to sleep together. After her friend fell asleep, Yun Li turned her back and quietly opened her phone. From the moment she added him on WeChat, she had been wanting to open his profile and take a look. Only now did she have the chance to click on it. His moments were just like him, clean and tidy. There were only a few shared thesis materials. Perhaps wanting to get closer to him, ignoring that it was already late at night, she actually thought about sending him an emoji to say hello. But the shyness in her heart made her not dare to take the initiative. She scrolled up and down the screen, hesitating. At the crucial moment, Deng Chuki once again became a divine assist. Hearing her friend turn over, Yun Li was so startled that she flipped her phone face down. Her heartbeat was thunderous. Did Chi notice? After a while, she dared to turn her face back. She saw her sleeping like a pig. The suspended heart could finally be put down. But feeling the phone vibrate, her heart was suspended again. Sure enough, after seeing the message on the phone, she was completely stunned, because the emoji had been sent. But looking at this "Be My Wife" emoji and Fu Shiai's confused question mark, a feeling of suffocation came over her. Oh no, how should she explain to him? Yun Li accidentally sending a flirtatious message to Fu late at night was already very embarrassing. As a result, her friend gave her a second blow. When did you ever ask someone for WeChat? When it rains, it pours. Hadn't this matter already passed? How come she still remembered? The next afternoon, Yun Li walked out of the room dejectedly, slumping in front of her friend and sighing loudly. Her friend thought she hadn't slept well last night due to unfamiliarity or nightmares. Yun Li first shook her head in denial, then contradictorily nodded the next second. Keeping things bottled up made her very uncomfortable, so she confided in her friend, telling her everything that happened last night. After listening, her friend thought her reaction was a bit extreme. So, Yun Li took out the chat history with Fu Shiai's from that night. Although Fu Shiai's had already replied with an NM, Yun Li still felt her explanation was useless. She was afraid Fu Shiai's would misunderstand, and that would make him even more distant. That night when she discovered she had accidentally sent the emoji, she felt both embarrassed and panicked. But Fu Shiai's didn't send any more messages after that. Poor Yun Li waited with an uneasy heart from 1 a.m. to 3:30 a.m., going from initial shyness to unease to fear, and finally just lying down peacefully. Sleep, just sleep. At worst, it's just dying of embarrassment. In life, death is inevitable. Dying of embarrassment is still dying. It doesn't matter. In reality, there was still a glimmer of hope in her heart, hoping that Fu would believe her explanation. This is what led to her not sleeping well last night. After listening, her friend laughed heartily, while Yunli was now holding her head and wailing, embarrassed and mortified, worried that Fu Shiai's would think she was a pervert. She hugged a pillow and asked for a quick end. Although amused by Yunli, her friend still thought she was taking things too seriously. Since she had already explained, and Fu Shiai's had replied, it meant he had accepted it and didn't mind. She then picked up her phone again, telling Yunli not to overthink it. But she suddenly mentioned the incident of Yunli asking someone for WeChat a few days ago. It dealt him a second blow. At this point, he couldn't hide it anymore. Since it was just the two of them now, he decided to tell her. His friend immediately threw her phone away. She didn't expect this twist. What a big revelation. But after the initial shock, his friend analyzed that Yun Li's reaction back then was understandable. And the fact that they ended up connecting anyway means they're destined to be together. You two have a chance. They say those involved can't see clearly. Yun Li was still stuck in the shadow of that incident, so his friend comforted him again. Being rejected isn't a big deal. It shows he's not accepting just anyone. And with his personality, once you're together, he might be devoted and faithful till death. But Yun Li wasn't listening. He remained depressed. However, Deng Chuki, being the divine wingwoman she was, wouldn't let things end like this. She took the phone. She discovered something exciting and covered part of the phone screen with her hand, gesturing to Yun Li. Doesn't this look much better now? At this moment, the middle content of the phone was covered. Only the initially sent emoji remained. And Fu Shiai's final reply of Ha, what a way to take things out of context. You're something else. Deng Chuki. The effect was naturally good. Yun Li's face turned red again. When you like someone, you always care a lot about what they think of you. Realizing that Fu Shiai's really didn't mind his mistakenly sent message, Yun Li should have felt relieved. But his heart ached subtly, feeling disappointed. Time flew by, and it was the start of the school year. Fu Jingchu, who had a knack for socializing, was helping Yun Li carry his luggage out of the community gate. During this time, he hadn't stopped talking to Yun Li. He would say 10 sentences before Yun Li had a chance to reply with a simple, let's go. They had already reached the gate. At this moment, Fu Shiai's, leaning against the car, heard their voices and looked over. The moment Yun Li saw him, his nerves tensed up as he thought. Given their current unfamiliarity, it wouldn't be right to call him by name, but saying hello seemed too distant. As Fu Shiai's walked closer, Yun Li's mind short-circuited. He ended up following Fu Jingchu's lead and called out, little uncle, hello. Fu Shiai's remained expressionless. Though surprised, he didn't dwell on it and calmly accepted the title. Yun Li, coming to his senses, was mortified. He was supposed to be the one to become an aunt. Why did he follow along and call Fu uncle? They were a generation apart now. They managed to reach the school safely without incident. Thankfully, with their help, all the luggage wasn't such a headache. So Yun Li planned to treat them to a meal as thanks. He originally wanted to ask Fu Zhengshu for help, but he had already turned and started chatting with someone else. So he looked towards Fu Shiai's, hesitating on how to start. But this person's gaze never left his phone. Fu Shiai's seemed to sense the gaze on him. Yun Li immediately felt guilty and looked away. Suddenly, he heard a girl nearby talking about wanting to have a romance in college. It stirred something inside him. At this moment, Fu Shiai's asked for his name. Distracted, Yun Li didn't hear clearly at first. Now hearing his words clearly again, Yun Li was pleasantly surprised and extremely nervous. As he was saying the last syllable of his name, he suddenly bit his tongue. It hurt terribly. Thinking he hadn't heard clearly, he repeated it once more. As a result, Fu Shiai's misheard and saved his WeChat name incorrectly. Yun Li noticed his unusual calmness when he exited the chat screen. Yun Li recalled the embarrassment of sending the wrong message last night. Compared to his calm reaction now, it was like a speck of dust landing on him. No need to brush it off manually. Just wait for the wind to blow it away. Logically, he should be happy. But Yun Li couldn't help feeling disappointed. Don't cry. Yun Li, look at the special nickname he gave you. They soon arrived at the dormitory building. Fu Zhengshu, having used his uncle, ruthlessly waved him away. Fu Shiai's wasn't angry and kindly reminded him to take care of himself. When handing the suitcase to Yun Li, he saw him looking at him with expectant eyes. remembering the little uncle he had said earlier. He treated him as a younger generation. You were clearly showing concern as a junior. But once again, it ignited hope in Yun Li's heart for him. Yun Li was one step closer to winning over Fu Shiai's because he was going to work at EO. They say the one closest to the water gets the moon first. Now there's no need to worry about chances to improve their relationship. Since their last parting on campus, Yun Li hadn't seen Fu Shiai's again. In the days without seeing Fu Shiai's, he really missed him so much. Even if he didn't want to, Deng Chuki was always chattering in his ear. Now she was gossiping again, asking about his progress with Fu Shiai's. Yun Li smiled mischievously and replied, "It's going well." Sure enough, she took the bait. Deng Chuki immediately asked excitedly about the details. Then hearing Yun Li's nonsensical rambling, stretching the truth to a certain extent, "It's going well," almost left Deng Chuki speechless. However, it's good for friends to joke around like this. It can even strengthen their relationship. It was about time for him to leave. Just then, the sound of the door opening startled them both. It was Xia Songxing returning from home. Beside him was a half-dead Xiao Si carrying his things. Really don't understand. It was just a few days at home, but he packed like he was moving. Then he hurried down to meet Fu Shiai's and returned to school. Hearing Fu Shiai's name, Deng Chuki immediately had an idea and called out to stop them. The opportunity had just arrived. Since they were going the same way, they could take Yun Li along. But Yun Li felt shy and didn't want to go. To do a good deed thoroughly, see the Buddha all the way to the west. As your friend, I'll help you one more time. Leave your things here, so you don't have to bring them next time. Let's go, let's go. With things put this way, Yun Li couldn't let his friend down, so he agreed. At this moment, the second divine assist, Xia Songsheng, came online. He connected Yun Li, informing him that EO was hiring. And when Fu Zhengchu got out of the car, he also added fuel to the fire, telling Yun Li to go work there. Everyone's helping out. How come I don't have friends like this? But Yun Li still had some small concerns. Counting up, their interactions had increased quite a bit lately. Now suddenly going to work at his company. He was afraid Fu Shiai's would discover his ulterior motives. But he still had to go, so he was struggling with how to bring it up without raising suspicion. Suddenly, he heard Fu Shiai's call out, "Yun Li." Yun Li was surprised. "Oh, is he calling me?" "You didn't mishear. Fu Shiai's was indeed calling you. Which store did you buy that cake from the other day?" Yun Li found that the taste of secret love was so painful because Fu Shiai's had rejected her again, hitting a wall with him time after time. Yun Li truly felt so tired. She wanted to give up. This time, hearing Fu Shiai's mention that his family elders liked the towel rolls he made, Yun Li was very happy. She thought she could use this to improve their relationship. As a result, Fu Shiai's once again completely sealed off this hard-earned opening. Yun Li was stunned when she heard it. A twinge of pain arose in her heart. She hadn't even been happy for a minute. After being rejected so many times, her heart had become somewhat numb. The difficulty of winning him over was like climbing to heaven. She really doubted if this person's heart was thousand-year-old ice, impossible to melt. They smoothly arrived at the entrance of the community. Yun Li still politely said goodbye to him. Suddenly remembering about working at EO, she needed to tell him about it. To avoid suddenly appearing at his workplace one day and being misunderstood as clinging to him, which wouldn't be good. Although she meant to clarify, she already knew the answer in her heart. Yet she deliberately lied, saying she hadn't decided where to send her resume. Then she wanted to gauge Fu Shiai's thoughts. If he minded, Yun Li would give up this option. But Yun Li overthought it. In fact, Fu Shiai's didn't care at all where she worked. He was even a bit confused why she asked for his opinion. Yun Li felt very uncomfortable and embarrassed under his gaze. She was about to say she needed to get out, perhaps feeling pity for Yun Li's awkward state. Fu Shiai's actually seriously helped her choose a job. He inquired about Yun Li's major, expected salary one by one. After comprehensive consideration, he finally gave the most suitable answer. Back home, Yun Li immediately went to check the pastries in the fridge. Just over the National Day holiday, they had all gone bad. It was exactly like the result of asking for his WeChat and being rejected. But the pastries went bad. She could sew, and they had added each other on WeChat. Now Fu Shiai's didn't mind her going to EO. He didn't show any aversion either. It could be understood that he didn't dislike her, so she would treat it as starting over from zero. When you like someone, your mood inevitably goes up and down for them. You might be devastated by one of their actions, feeling hopeless. You might also be reignited by one of their words, regaining your spirit. After analyzing this result, Yunli didn't feel discouraged. On the contrary, she was very clear about her feelings, so she would try not to be hurt by his words. Thus, while cleaning up the pastries, she subconsciously counted suitable and unsuitable ones. Coincidentally, the last one happened to be suitable. So, this once again gave Yunli confidence in winning over Fu Shiai's. Cheo, Ierikome. Have you seen someone with two faces in public and private? Today, Yunli really opened her eyes. There really are such shameless people. Fortunately, Fu Shiai's helped her out of the awkward situation. Having composed herself, Yunli has come to EO for an interview today. The person responsible for contacting her was still He Jiaming, and she was teasing Yunli about meeting someone familiar. Yunli was looking forward to who this familiar person might be. Who else could it be? Definitely not Fu Shiai's. It was Du Gafei, who had been rejected when trying to chat up Fu Shiai's, one of the bloggers who attended EO's opening event before. After entering the room, Yunli felt a bit let down and disappointed. Suddenly, the guy next to her wanted to chat with Yunli, but was slandered by Du Gafei, who said Yunli was aloof and ignored people. Yunli felt so wronged inside. I'm just not good at dealing with strangers. But there's no need to explain to them. Anyway, it's just a chance encounter. Preparing for her interview is more important. Half an hour later, Yunli finished the interview feeling like she'd lost half her life. Even though it was one-on-one, it was still torture. As she left, she was still recalling her performance, wondering if she could pass. He Jiaming, who had been waiting beside her, finally saw her interview end. She eagerly approached Yunli and whispered some gossip. It turned out that Du Gafei had been trying every means to get information about Fu Shiai's. He came to interview at EO, also to pursue him. Yunli was slightly surprised to hear his intentions. Their company knew and disapproved, but they couldn't turn him away, so they just dealt with it. Then He Jiaming was called back to work by her colleague. Mom knew her daughter went for an interview today and was concerned. She called at the estimated time to ask about the results. Yunli heard her mother's loving and comforting voice. She just wanted to act spoiled with her mom. Suddenly, her father's scolding voice came through the phone. He kept harping on Yunli's introverted personality. A nice phone call was ruined again by her father's argument. She is introverted, not antisocial, or unable to get along with others. And what's wrong with being introverted? Can't introverts live well? After giving herself a mental massage, Yunli took a deep breath and suppressed her anger. It's not a big deal. At most, she'll go interview at other companies. Going back is impossible. Hearing her father's anger, she simply hung up the phone. Yunli was very upset. Countless times, her father would never listen to her properly. But she's grown up now, and it's time to make her own decisions. When Yunli came out to the entrance, she happened to see Du Gafei trying to chat with Fu Shiai's. Seeing his awkward expression, he had obviously hit a wall with Fu Shiai's again. This time, seeing Yunli come out, thinking she was easy to bully, he wanted to shift the blame for not getting WeChat and feeling embarrassed onto Yunli. Then he pretended to be familiar with her. He chatted with Yunli, saying asking for WeChat was Yunli's idea. What are you talking about? You really think I'm a pushover, easy to manipulate? But Fu Shiai's didn't give Yunli a chance to show her skills. He turned to look at Yunli and asked calmly, "You want that one?" Du Gafei thought his scheme had succeeded and pushed Yunli out forcefully. "Sorry, here's a double awkwardness for you. Haven't I already given it to you? Everyone has a reverse scale that can't be touched. Yunli's reverse scale is Fu Shiai's." Hearing Du Gafei fail to chat up Fu Shiai's, he slandered his identity. This made Yunli very angry. Let's see, how our Yunli put him in his place. After Fu Shiai's finished asking, he heard a colleague call him for help. Before leaving, he didn't forget to say goodbye to Yunli. Seeing Yunli enjoy Fu Shiai's special treatment, Du Gafei's face completely changed. At the same time, Yunli didn't want to have much interaction with such a hypocritical person. But this person's face was unusually thick. He grabbed Yunli and stuck to her again. It's hard to refuse someone with a smiling face. Yunli couldn't reject him immediately, but he started causing trouble again. First, he insinuated out of nowhere that Yunli was competing with him for someone. He implied that Yunli only took action after hearing he was pursuing Fu Shiai's. It seemed this person came to pursue just to assert his initiative. Yunli found it amusing. It turns out when people are speechless to the extreme, they really will laugh out loud. But when she heard him slander Fu Shiai's as an incompetent repairman and say he wasn't interested, Yunli felt a surge of anger. She forcefully pulled her hand back. This person even complained that Fu Shiai's was dirty and his position was low. This thoroughly angered Yunli. He couldn't pursue Fu Shiai's himself, yet he acted high and mighty and looked down on him. Moreover, his target wasn't just Fu Shiai's. Watch me take you down. If you're so great, why didn't he give you his WeChat? Well done, hitting the bullseye directly. It seems he has no interest in you at all. So what position he has and how much he earns monthly has nothing to do with you. Although she successfully drove him away with her words, Yunli was still very angry when she got home. She felt disgusted by his behavior of turning the tables on her and speaking ill of others behind their backs. However, regarding Fu Shiai's being a repairman, Yunli didn't believe it. With his abilities, he could go to a big company or do scientific research. Staying at EO was probably to help relatives. Speak of the devil, and he shall appear. Seeing the video call from Fu Shiai's, Yunli was surprised. But the next second she hesitated anxiously, not daring to answer. Finally, when she was mentally prepared to answer, the other side had already hung up. She felt regretful and disappointed. Why couldn't she be a bit braver? Sighing deeply, she blamed herself. But a missed opportunity is missed. Unexpectedly, the other side called again. No matter what, she had to seize this chance. Give herself confidence. Be brave. However, video call was impossible. Switching to voice call would do. But after connecting, there was no sound from the other side. Soon, there was only a slight electric buzzing sound. Fu Zhengqiu on the other side just felt puzzled, not noticing any problem. Hearing the urging, she finally said she could go help. However, he still wanted to clarify if Fu Shiai's was present at the scene. But Fu Zhengqiu had already hung up the phone. Looking at the ended call, Yunli's reaction was a bit stunned. He hadn't finished speaking. So if Fu Shiai's isn't there, you won't go? Tell the truth. Isn't the answer obvious? She could only shamefully raise her hands and surrender. I'm guilty. I'll atone. Fortunately, Yunli still went to the event. Otherwise, she would have missed the chance to interact with Fu Shiai's and to be in such close proximity to him. The event venue was bustling with people. Yunli had already collected a pile of flyers on her way in. Fu Zhengqiu spotted Yunli over there and quickly waved and called out. His gaze was drawn to the flyers in her hand. He quickly started promoting his club to Yunli and even secured a sponsorship. It was actually from his own family, probably because they were pestered into investing. He proudly sought praise from Yunli. But Yunli's attention had already been captured by Fu Shiai's nearby. From the moment she spotted him, her gaze seemed glued to him, unable to look away. Perhaps Yunli's gaze was too intense. Fu Shiai suddenly turned his face. Yunli was caught red-handed by him. She blushed and froze in place. Then she turned her face away to avoid his gaze. Distracted, she perfunctorily responded to Fu Zhengqiu. Impressive. Having received approval, Fu Zhengqiu's confidence soared. He actually tried his old trick again, taking advantage of his uncle. He asked him to organize the prizes to be distributed later. Suddenly, Yunli's attention was drawn to one of the prizes. It was a moon canvas bag with the EO logo. The pattern was very similar to Fu Shiai's profile picture. Suddenly, Fu Zhengqiu once again asked Yunli for praise. Yunli awkwardly agreed. Taking the opportunity to change the subject, she mentioned she had just interviewed at EO this morning. Fu Zhengqiu didn't think much of it after hearing this. He felt happy. Then he casually reminded his uncle not to cause trouble for Yunli. Unfairly putting such a big black hat on him, Fu Shiai's was displeased. He clapped his hands and said, "Then I'll go back." Fu Zhengqiu quickly grabbed him. If he left, this booth couldn't open. Didn't you say not to cause trouble? Fu Zhengqiu quickly surrendered. Changing the subject, he let Yunli pick a souvenir. Afraid his uncle would leave, he specifically asked him to help keep it for Yunli. Yunli stared intently at the canvas bag on the table, but she was too shy to ask directly. At least ask a few more questions, or let her choose herself. Seeing her say everything was good, Fu Zhengqiu simply took matters into his own hands and gave her a water bottle. Yunli was completely stunned by this. He clearly saw where her gaze was, yet said carrying the canvas bag out would be like advertising. In the end, he thought he had done something great. Yunli could only pretend to be happy and thank him. Inside, she was actually about to cry. Goodbye, canvas bag. But Fu Shiai saw Yunli's sad emotions. Then he put on his glasses, preparing to adjust the equipment. Seeing Fu Shiai start working alone, Yun Li quickly went over to offer help. So, Fu Shiai's directed Yun Li and Fu Zhengchu to stand on either side. Then he slowly walked towards Yun Li's side first, watching his tall figure come closer and closer. Yun Li's heart beat faster and faster. Her face gradually turned red. At this moment, the noisy sounds around seemed to become silent. Only her rapidly beating heart remained. Heartbeats. His presence was infinitely magnified at this moment. Step by step, approaching, consuming my space. I want to retreat and escape, yet I long for him to come closer. The more time Yun Li spent with Fu Shiai's, the deeper her heart fell. It turns out that beneath his cold exterior, he hides a delicate and thoughtful heart. Successfully helping Fu Shiai's debug the equipment, Yun Li's bouncing heart could finally rest for a while. At this time, Fu Zhengchu shouted "Uncle," complaining that there were too many flyers to distribute. It's too much. Who told you to shamelessly beg for sponsorship? You need to know it's not given for free. I protest, little uncle, where's your humanity? But after complaining, he still had to obediently listen to the sponsor. Yun Li couldn't bear it. She took half of the flyers to let him not do it alone. Fu Zhengchu was moved to tears. Sister Lily, you're so kind. Then he proudly showed off to Fu Shiai. See? This is the difference between you and Sister Lily. How many times has this been? Still challenging his bottom line. Let's teach you a lesson. Watching Fu Shiai's take half of the flyers from his hands, Yun Li's heart started bouncing again. Fu Zhengchu quickly offered the mountain of flyers. Little uncle, why don't you take mine? Fu Shiai's calmly replied, because this is the difference between you two. At this moment, Yun Li's heart pounded violently. She was stunned. Although she knew he was talking about helping between different genders, Yun Li had to admit that her emotions were already being led by Fu Shiai's. She couldn't control them at all. Influenced by Fu Shiai's looks, many people came to experience it. Fu Zhengchu took the opportunity to ask Yun Li to bring a bottle of water over to prevent heat stroke. But seeing he was still busy, Yun Li didn't know whether to interrupt him or not. And the girl next to him was also asking for guidance. Yun Li gripped the water in her hand, choosing to quietly retreat to the side and wait for him to finish. Suddenly, a hand reached out in front of her eyes, nipping Yun Li's about-to-yimo emotions in the bud. It was Fu Shiai's. He knew she had come to find him, so she handed over the water in her hand. Fu Shiai's easily loosened the cap, then handed it back. Yun Li was stunned by his actions. After Yun Li took the water, he then took another bottle. This time, after opening it, he drank directly. Details reveal character. Such a thoughtful man really earns bonus points. No wonder Yun Li was fascinated by him. Who wouldn't be confused by this? Moreover, his looks are even better than Sang Yin and Duan Jiaxiu. So even if she's been hurt a few times by this impenetrable cold bottle, Yun Li still can't help but be drawn closer to him. The experience activity was quickly coming to an end. Suddenly, a girl became interested in the canvas bag and wanted to take it. Fu Shiai's turned his face, thoughtful, because that was the last one. Sorry, someone just asked for this. Choose another one. I didn't hear anyone ask for it. Fu Shiai's. Who are you saving this for? The next update will be on August 13th. Welcome to Gently Check In. And wouldn't have seen his smile. It turns out the Siberian ice block can smile too. And his smile is quite nice. The activity ended. While cleaning up, Yun Li noticed the canvas bag Fu Shiai's had specially reserved for her. She was overjoyed but too shy to directly ask if she could have it. Fu Zhengchu, lacking tact, directly exposed Yun Li's intentions. No wonder he couldn't catch Sang Ji. With this level of EQ, he's not even in the same league as Duan Jiaxiu. Fu Shiai's was more considerate, playing along with Yun Li. Only the canvas bag was left as a prize. Yun Li immediately beamed with joy. I just want to experience the prize. Anything is fine, it's not important really. Fu Shiai's was amused by Yun Li's contradiction. He hadn't guessed wrong. This smile was like a fleeting epiphyllum bloom. But Yun Li still caught it. Her heart pounded like thunder. Did he just smile? It was only then that Fu Zhengchu finally realized Yun Li's intention. Once again, he carelessly pushed the thing over. Just take it directly. I really thank you. Then, Fu Zhengchu urged Fu Shiai's to hurry up and go eat, as if the previous scene had never happened. However, looking at the busy Fu Shiai's, Yun Li had a bold guess in her heart. Could it be that he had already discovered I wanted the canvas bag? Yes, he's not only handsome and smart, but also very attentive to girls' emotions. During the meal, Fu Zhengchu learned from Yun Li's habit of eating noodles that she was from the West. She had lived in the West before starting her graduate studies. He also mentioned that Fu Shiai's was the top student student at their Shiku University. Of course, she knew this information, but pretended not to know, to avoid letting Fu Shiai's know she had investigated him privately. But Yun Li's reaction was too calm. So even the careless Fu Zhengqiu noticed something was off. You didn't know this before, did you? Yun Li's heart skipped a beat. I just realized it, but if you're gonna act, go all out. I'll still pretend to be shocked. Wow, you're really amazing. But she overacted, making the situation extremely awkward. Even the usually calm Fu Shiai's felt speechless. Let's eat. Just when Yunli thought she had successfully fooled them, Fu Zhengqiu brought up another topic. He talked about Fu Shiai's childhood, how he tricked him into going to the same school. They had promised to go to school together. The more he talked, the angrier he got. He simply snatched food from Fu Shiai's chopsticks to vent his frustration. Because after just 2 days, Fu Shiai's skipped grades directly to middle school. He demanded an explanation from Yun Li, asking her to take his side. This put Yun Li in a difficult position. Meanwhile, Fu Shiai's acted as if nothing happened, not saying a word. So naturally, Yun Li leaned towards Fu Shiai's side. He didn't lie. He was indeed at the same school as you, and he couldn't help it. After all, being born smart isn't his fault, right? Isn't this indirectly saying Fu Zhengqiu is stupid? So, once again, Yun Li killed the conversation. Even Fu Zhengqiu was stunned into silence. Fu Shiai's wasn't always this cold. Through Fu Zhengqiu, she learned that his personality used to be lively and cheerful. Yun Li was surprised to hear this. It seemed her understanding of him had expanded. However, before this, Fu Zhengqiu was still complaining about living in his uncle's shadow. He even snatched food from Fu Shiai's chopsticks again, making Fu Shiai's want to punch him. Yun Li felt the same way. His mouth was like a machine gun, blabbering nonstop. It was really annoying, but she could only patiently comfort him, telling him not to be upset. Fu Zhengqiu immediately looked at her with hopeful eyes, thinking he had found someone who understood him. But Yun Li coldly replied that they were all ordinary people and should know their place. Looking at his expression, she realized he was 50% similar to Fu Shiai's. Seeing his shocked and embarrassed look, Fu Shiai's nodded and continued to twist the knife. Accepting yourself isn't scary. This made Fu Zhengqiu look pitiful. Birds of a feather flocked together. The young couple's skill in dealing with people was truly on par. That's what he gets for talking nonstop. But later, Yun Li experienced it again. After finishing the meal, Fu Zhengqiu saw his favorite dessert being sold. He looked excited and asked his uncle if he wanted to eat. He actually wanted to treat him. If you want to eat, just go buy it. He didn't forget about Yun Li behind him either, clearly treating her as a junior. Yun Li was scared and quickly refused. But with Fu Zhengqiu being so quick-witted, it was impossible to refuse. Afterwards, Fu Zhengqiu started his chanting monk mode again, constantly recommending and analyzing desserts for Yun Li. This pushed Yun Li to the brink of collapse. How can he talk so much? How can Fu Shiai stand it? Seeing Yun Li not responding, Fu Zhengqiu wondered why she wasn't answering. Yun Li didn't reply. Instead, she asked if he used to chat with Fu Shiai's like this before. In the past, my little uncle talked more than now. Not like now. She became very interested in matters related to Fu Shiai's. What did he usually say to you? He asked if I had grown 2 mouths. So he had such a humorous side. This changed Yun Li's imagination of him. Although Fu Shiai's didn't pay much attention to Fu Zhengqiu, his attitude towards him could almost be described as doting. Although there were moments of anger and dissatisfaction, he never lost his temper. This refreshed Yun Li's understanding of him. Such an emotionally stable partner is really desirable. After picking out the desserts, Yun Li didn't forget to ask for the nurse's treatment. Unexpectedly, Fu Zhengqiu refused. He has already trained Fu Shiai's to be a professional at queuing and paying. You're the first one to be so proud of taking advantage of someone. But Fu Shiai's really showed no complaints and obediently paid. However, Yun Li felt guilty and quickly took out her campus card to pay for her share. Suddenly, Fu Zhengqiu noticed a photo on the campus card. In the picture, Yun Li had long hair, looking more youthful and cute than now. It was hard to take your eyes off it. Fu Zhengqiu quickly leaned in to ask, Sister Li, was this taken during your undergraduate years? The secret of the canvas bag was discovered by Fu Shiai's, because Yun Li showed too much fondness for it, cherishing it dearly. After many times, Fu Zhengqiu noticed, Uncle, the pattern on your bag looks a lot like her avatar. It turned out the campus card photo was from Yun Li's high school days. She was away when they took graduation photos for her undergraduate degree. After hearing her explanation, Fu Zhengqiu liked it even more. Long hair looks good too, right, Uncle? Fu Shiai's maintained his usual cold demeanor, not answering, but quietly settled the bill. Experiencing being treated by the opposite sex for the first time, Yunli felt embarrassed and wanted to pay him back. Although calling him uncle felt awkward, she still said it. Fu Zhengqiu, however, accepted it without hesitation. Suddenly, Yunli felt sorry for Fu Shiai's. Being Fu Zhengqiu's uncle must be tough. She immediately told Fu Zhengqiu not to always bully him. Your uncle is quite nice. Fu Shiai's was a bit surprised, looking at Yunli. He didn't expect her to speak up for him. Yunli immediately turned her face away. She didn't have the courage to face his ambiguous gaze. Fu Zhengqiu didn't notice their little interaction and dismissed Yunli's words. But when uncle starts dating, he'll definitely behave. Then he gossiped, nudging Fu Shiai's shoulder. Uncle, when are you going to find me an ant? Give an inch, and you take a mile. He directly shoved the food over. Your bread. But he was very gentle with Yunli, lightly placing it in front of her. Yunli smiled, took it, and thanked him. She contentedly put it in her bag. Looking at the pattern on the bag again, she cherished it like a rare treasure. Fu Zhengqiu, confused beside her, watched her actions and asked how it felt to carry it. Yunli genuinely liked it, and it was specially left for her by Fu Shiai's. However, the size was a bit big for her. Without realizing it, the sun had already set. The evening sky was as beautiful as her mood today, so she wanted to take some empty shots as backup material. As she was taking photos, she couldn't help but include the canvas bag she received. Just then, the slow-to-react Fu Zhengqiu noticed something. Hey, Uncle Lee, the pattern on that canvas bag looks a lot like your avatar. He then opened Fu Shiai's WeChat to compare. Both are moons, just different colors. Pretty good observation. But his emotional intelligence was low, because he didn't imagine Yunli liking Fu Shiai's, but instead made a crude joke. Fu Shiai's, who had been patient all along, finally couldn't hold back his anger. Walking on the school path, the school broadcast happened to be playing an interview with a notable figure from Nanjing Tech. When asked about any regrets in university, any regrets? Probably not having been in a relationship. Yunli suddenly sighed. Fu Zhengqiu and his brother were both too amazing. They could even score a three-pointer while walking. Fu Zhengqiu suddenly became curious if Yunli had this regret during her undergraduate years. Yunli looked uncomfortable and a bit nervous. I've never been in a relationship. To prevent them from asking further, she quickly changed the subject and asked about them. Fu Zhengqiu said he was a playboy, having dated 4 or 5 times, though each time was short-lived. How many times he dated didn't matter to Yunli. She cared about Fu Shiai's answer. Feeling their gazes, Fu Shiai's was a bit surprised. He clearly didn't expect them to ask about him. Seeing he hadn't answered for a while, Yunli continued to urge, is uncle the same? Dating 4 or 5 times? Being able to ask this question clearly overestimated his romantic history. Falling in love often starts with a smile. Hearing Fu Shiai say, you're really overestimating me, Yunli blinked her eyes, confused. At the crucial moment, Fu Zhengqiu stepped in to explain. With uncle's personality, being asked this question is already an overestimation. But the later comment about asexual reproduction was unnecessary. He just doesn't want to. Looking at this nephew, he needed to be taught a lesson again. Yunli suddenly burst into laughter, finally understanding what he meant earlier. It seemed to be the case. Fu Shiai's looked at Yunli upon hearing her laugh. Looks good, right? Then you should hurry up and fall in love. Our Lily is quite popular. After this little interlude, Fu Zhengqiu followed the broadcast topic and started courting death again. He bluntly said the school shouldn't have invited this person as a guest. Maybe by the time uncle's classmates' kids are in elementary school, he still won't have a girlfriend. He wanted to sign Fu Shiai's up to be the next guest. Unable to tolerate it any longer, there was no need to hold back. Nephews are meant to be beaten. Yunli felt sympathetic, sighing that this kid must have had a tough time growing up. Seems like he's been beaten quite often before. After disciplining him, Fu Shiai's returned to his original demeanor. Fu Zhengqiu now had a bump on his head. He still wanted to invite Yunli to watch football together. Yunli's social anxiety flared up again. She didn't even know how many players were on the field. She apologetically shook her head and refused, fearing she'd spoil the fun. Little did she know how intently she'd be watching later. Fu Zhengqiu, following the principle of since we're here anyway, forcibly dragged Yunli away to buy water. He actually wanted to use the pretext of paying to get revenge for Fu Shiai's beating him. But he didn't expect Yunli had already taken Fu Shiai's side. The beating you got wasn't unfair at all. In an instant, Fu Zhengqiu felt his world crumbling. Sister Lily, how could you treat me like this too? Later, from Fu Jingchu's mouth, she learned that Fu Shiai's hadn't graduated yet. Yunli was shocked to hear this. Could he still be doing his PhD? For some reason, Fu Shiai's didn't want to return to school. He also seemed indifferent about whether he could graduate or not. Only after they had walked far away did Yunli withdraw her gaze and continue choosing drinks. Suddenly, someone called out to her, "Classmate, you've been picking that bottle of milk for so long." Just now, Yunli's attention was entirely on Fu Shiai's, so she had been picking up and putting down the milk several times. The guy thought she couldn't find one she liked and wanted to take her to the snack shop next door to choose. But Yunli felt resistant. Do we know each other? This made things awkward. It made Yunli think he was a bad person. The guy felt pressured and wanted to explain he had no ill intentions. The next second, Yunli quickly turned and ran back to join them. Fu Jingchu thought that person was her classmate. She said no. He kept staring at me, even watching which milk I was choosing. It felt a bit creepy. She then showed a horrified and disgusted expression. She urged them to pay and quickly leave this scary place. So Fu Jingchu secretly complained to his uncle that he could tell the guy just wanted to chat with Yunli, but she mistook him for a creepy peeping Tom. Fu Shiai's felt strangely relieved. He asked, "Indeed, what?" But Fu Jingchu didn't notice and sighed that Yunli was pretty but had no romantic experience. Hearing this, Fu Shiai's became protective. "I don't have experience either. Not like you, dating 4 or 5 times." Yunli sat next to Fu Shiai's, feeling happy yet awkward, because she couldn't find a topic to talk about with him. Although Fu Shiai's didn't like to talk and didn't smile much, he was quite attentive to girls. Not only did he notice Yunli liked the canvas bag, he didn't mind when Yunli accidentally took the wrong drink. Seeing Fu Shiai's stop his actions, he took 3 boxes of milk, thinking they could drink them later. Fu Shiai's continued scanning items. Is there no chocolate flavor? He didn't find it at first. Heard Fu Jingchu say it was in the back, so he hurriedly picked up the milk to exchange it. Suddenly, Fu Shiai's took 2 boxes from his hand. Yunli followed his action with a confused look. Fu Shiai's calmly explained, "Just change yours." Could he have guessed that Yunli liked chocolate flavor? They successfully arrived at the football field. Yunli still felt uncomfortable. She didn't even understand the rules. Fu Jingchu comforted her, saying she could watch handsome guys, but she probably wouldn't pay attention because Fu Shiai's was sitting right next to her. The seats weren't wide. If she moved her legs slightly, it would touch Fu Shiai's. Yunli would retract like she'd been electrocuted. This atmosphere made her feel like she was suffocating, so she broke the silence first. "Which team do you support?" But this iceberg was also honest. "No opinion." "Do you usually watch football?" "No." "Then are you here today to accompany Fu Jingchu?" Fu Shiai's looked back at her. "Aren't you too?" This awkward conversation made Yunli want to find a hole to crawl into. Fortunately, the match started soon. The atmosphere on the field became lively. She no longer had to rack her brains solving communication problems with Fu Shiai's. As the atmosphere picked up, Yunli went from indifferent to being immersed in it. Looking at the clappers Fu Jingchu passed over, Yunli pondered how to give them to Fu Shiai's. But no matter how much she thought, it all came down to action. So she held it out in front of him. "Why don't you join in a bit? It's quite fun." But Yunli's arm got tired from holding it up. Fu Shiai still showed no sign of taking it. So Yunli simply placed it directly in his hand, since he was already here. Fu Shiai's looked down at the object in his hand. At this moment, Yunli looked at him with nervous yet expectant eyes. As the clapping sound started, he obediently held the clappers and shook them along with the crowd. However, his expression remained cold. He shook them and cheered so stiffly that one might think he was being forced. Tonight's moon was very gentle, no longer aloof. Yunli encountered such a considerate moon for the first time, and so close too. Her heart was pounding like a little deer in his chest. As the match entered its most intense phase, Yunli cheered along with the audience, while Fu Shiai's beside her still acted like a prop. The team seemed inspired by the audience's encouragement and performed exceptionally well, actually scoring a goal. The camera promptly broadcast the fans' reactions on the big screen. Suddenly, Fu Shiai's, who had been unresponsive, paused his movement because the camera was aimed at the two of them. It startled Yunli. The camera seemed broken, showing no sign of moving away. Yunli appeared very nervous, while Fu Shiai's remained calm as usual. Seeing the image wasn't changing, the host quickly changed his words to ease the atmosphere. Fortunately, this tense situation didn't last long. After the camera moved away, Yunli felt like she had been given a new lease on life. She regretted her stiff reaction earlier, thinking she should have appeared more excited. Hearing no more sound beside him, Fu Shiai's turned his face to look. He saw Yun Li with her head down, looking like a wilted eggplant. Suddenly, he felt a bit uncomfortable inside. He really wanted her to return to her previous state, so he looked at the clappers in his hand, conflicted. In the end, his inner balance tipped towards Yun Li's side. He decisively picked them up and started clapping quickly. However, his face remained as cold as ever. Yun Li heard the sound and was confused. He was so lazy earlier. How did he suddenly become more enthusiastic than her? It's because he wanted to cheer you up. To prevent Yun Li from noticing, Fu Shiai's quickly said, "Goal," to divert her attention. The score on the field had already reached 3 o'clock. This level of skill also brought Yun Li's emotions back. Seeing her smile again, the discomfort in his heart disappeared. He returned to his previous cold demeanor. The match ended perfectly with a 3-1 score. In an instant, everyone moved towards the exit. Yun Li slowly followed behind Fu Shiai's. Suddenly, someone behind her, as if rushing to reincarnate, pushed Yun Li. Her forehead hit Fu Shiai's hard shoulder blade. It hurt, but Fu Shiai's turned around as if nothing happened. Yun Li quickly apologized, saying she was pushed by someone. She was afraid of causing Fu Shiai's dislike. Worried she had hurt him, Fu Shiai's, without showing any emotion, unceremoniously reached out and pushed the person in front back. "Step back. What are you doing?" The pushed man reflexively shouted. But upon meeting Fu Shiai's gaze, he immediately fell silent. Although he had a tall figure, he wasn't bulky. His words weren't fierce, yet they inexplicably made the man tremble. He instinctively stepped back. Then Fu Shiai's turned sideways, gesturing for Yun Li to walk in front. Because the aisle was narrow, when Yun Li walked past him, contact was unavoidable. Smelling his scent, her heart fluttered, but someone behind pushed him again. This push sent him directly into Fu Shiai's arms. Feeling the touch before her, Yun Li was stunned. She only came back to her senses when she heard Fu Shiai's voice. Yun Li lowered her head to hide her unusual state. Her heart was beating so fast. For the first time, she was grateful for the surrounding noise. It could cover the sound of her heartbeat. Tonight's moon held no secrets, openly displaying his privacy. When she saw the girls in the contact list, it made Yun Li feel sad and uncomfortable. However, before this incident, her mood was delightfully happy, because since this afternoon, she had been with Fu Shiai's the whole time. If everything hadn't happened so naturally, she would have suspected Fu Zhengqiu of being her divine wingman, creating such a perfect time, place, and atmosphere for her and Fu Shiai's world for two. Walking near the car, Fu Shiai's let Yun Li get in first. He then leaned against the car and lit a cigarette. At this moment, Yun Li calmed her joyful heart. Looking at his back, it stirred up the worry hidden in her heart. He used to be so dazzling, but now he seemed so lonely it hurt. The time for one cigarette wasn't very long. Fu Shiai's opened the car door, asked if the destination was Calixiang, and then thoughtfully reminded her, "You forgot to fasten your seatbelt." Her thoughts were all on him. Hearing his voice, she hurriedly fastened it. During this time, they didn't say a word, but she felt very happy, because last time when he drove her home, she sat in the back. This time, she was in the front passenger seat. Does this also represent that their relationship is closer than before? But thinking again, she felt it was too early to say. This iron wall, 1 step or 10 steps forward seemed to make no difference. Suddenly, Fu Shiai's phone received a message. He looked thoughtful, glanced at Yun Li. Actually, in his heart, he trusted Yun Li, believing she wouldn't gossip about the message if she saw it. "Help me check the message. The phone has no password." Yun Li's heart skipped a beat. She was surprised. She didn't expect he would allow her to use his phone. It was a message from Fu Zhengqiu. The second one was from a girl saved as Lin Wanyu. There were 99 unread messages. Looking at the external text, their relationship seemed quite familiar. She felt a bit uneasy, but she chose to shake off this negative energy. With Fu Shiai's permission, she opened the voice message from Fu Zhengqiu. He earnestly sent a string of reminders. "Uncle, it's so late. Remember to send Sister Lily to her doorstep. Remember, don't go upstairs." The usually calm Fu Shiai's was instantly stunned. Didn't he just say he was frigid? Yun Li bullshit. What on earth was Fu Zhengqiu thinking? Sensing Yun Li's embarrassment, he told her not to mind it. After all, Fu Zhengqiu was always noisy. After resolving this awkward situation, Yunli dug herself into another hole. She was confused about Fu Zhengqiu and Xia Zongxing being siblings, but having different surnames. It turned out they took their parents' surnames. They originally wanted Xia Zongxing to take the Fu surname too, but later decided against it. This made Yun Li even more curious. Was Fu Zhengqiu originally surnamed Xia too? Fu Shige shook his head, explaining that it's because his brother-in-law is more afraid of his sister. He then immediately asked, "Are you afraid too?" The already inactive atmosphere instantly became silent and dead. This suffocating feeling almost smothered Yun Li. She quickly explained, "No, I mean, are you afraid of your sister? I'm not asking if you're afraid. Afraid or not afraid." It seemed like saying nothing at all. Tonight's moon was attentive and straightforward. The warmth it revealed was hard not to misinterpret. Yunli felt a bit nervous when she got home, because Fu Shi's had actually remembered her habit of drinking chocolate-flavored milk. When she asked about it, she felt a bit presumptuous and nervous. Fu Shi's calmly replied, "Didn't you buy it too when we went to Xia Zongxing's house?" "That's true, but is it normal for someone you've only met a few times? Maybe he's just nice and habitually remembers people's preferences around him. Or perhaps he's really paying attention to me." This made Yun Li's heart race and her face blush. Am I overthinking this? Logically, the answer was clear. If there's anyone to blame, it's Fu Shi's for being too charming. Calming down, she felt worried for him again. There were still 6 months until graduation from the live broadcast. Why was he staying in Manhwa? Suddenly, Fu Zhengqiu came to assist again. During tonight's ball game, they were caught on the broadcast camera. In the picture, Fu Shi's was looking at Yun Li's anxious expression. He had actually taken a photo and saved it. Probably interested in Fu Shi's reaction, he privately asked for an answer. Caught. He wasn't even embarrassed. He directly replied with 3 words, looking openly. This made Yun Li, the person involved, even more excited. These 3 words were hard not to misinterpret. If it weren't for his unchanged expression, she would have suspected he had feelings for her. However, this was enough to make Yun Li's mood soar. At least it seemed he didn't dislike her. Everything was developing in a good direction. Yun Li looked shy and checked the message again, or more accurately, opened the picture. This was their first photo together. Her finger unconsciously zoomed in on Fu Shi's side. Now she could look openly too. She wondered what he was thinking at that time. A few days later, Yun Li went to EO to report for work. The receptionist was still He Jiaming. He smiled, surprised that Yun Li had accepted to transfer from the technical department to human resources. This way they could work together. Although Yun Li said she wanted to experience work life, her best friend had voiced her true thoughts, including renting a house and coming here to work. It was all to get closer to Fu Shi's. Even if it wasn't entirely true, she dared not deny it, because more or less she had such thoughts. So she wanted to understand her job responsibilities in advance. But He Jiaming said he didn't know either. Yun Li was stunned. If even HR didn't know, why did they hire her? He Jiaming patted her shoulder, comforting her that this wasn't the first time it had happened. Fu Shi's was originally supposed to go to the R&D department, but ended up being assigned to maintain equipment and do odd jobs. Yun Li thought it was a waste. With his abilities, he shouldn't be doing such small tasks. They didn't want to waste his talent either, but Fu Shi's temper was really too. No one could tolerate it, of course, except for Su Qingfeng, who could be friends with him. Yun Li deeply understood this, so she didn't dwell on it anymore and decided to familiarize herself with the company environment first. Suddenly, He Jiaming revealed some gossip. Their company's lunch was ordered from outside and needed 2 people to carry it back from the entrance. He was about to arrange the staff for picking up the box meals. So, did she have anyone in mind? This question hit right at Yun Li's heart. She naturally had someone in mind, but she didn't dare to say it out loud. It's okay. Girls naturally understand other girls' thoughts. He Jiaming guessed correctly in one try. How about Fu Shi's? As soon as he said it, Yun Li's heart skipped a beat. She felt shy and shocked at the same time. Tonight's moon hung high in the sky, but he didn't want to be put on such a high pedestal. At this moment, hearing He Jiaming wanting to set them up, her heart raced and she felt nervous. Afraid this might be a workplace test, she told him to decide. However, He Jiaming had no intention of setting her up. If he didn't have someone in mind, he wouldn't have handed Fu Shi's over so easily. Later, he remembered that there was a problem with the equipment in the experience hall that needed inspection. So he asked Yun Li to go and lend a hand. Arriving at the door, she stated her identity, but there was no response from inside. She carefully turned the doorknob and peeked in to observe. Where was the engineer? She saw the engineer with his back turned, saying, you've come to EO. The moment she saw Fu Shiai's, Yunli felt it was unbelievable. She didn't expect to work with him on her first day, but after the initial excitement, she felt very nervous. After all, this was a work setting. She respectfully called out to Fu Shiai's, thanking him for his suggestion. But being transferred to the HR department didn't match her expertise, and given her somewhat socially anxious personality. Fu Shiai seemed to hear something surprising and asked, "Is that so?" Hearing Yun Li's denial, Fu Shiai looked at her with an inquisitive gaze. They stared at each other, creating an awkward moment. Suddenly, Yunli remembered asking him for his WeChat. Okay, that indeed didn't seem like something a socially anxious person would do. She then crouched down, using work to change the subject. Suddenly, she noticed breakfast on the ground. Was he so busy that he didn't even have time to eat breakfast before working? So she urgently offered to help, at least to take his place. She insisted he eat his breakfast first. Hearing Fu Shiai's refusal, Yunli became anxious. Your breakfast is already cold. You can eat your breakfast first. The emperor isn't in a hurry, but the eunuch is dying of anxiety. Fu Shiai calmly replied, "It's not a problem." Then he slowly climbed up the ladder. As the weight increased, the ladder creaked. Yunli quickly grabbed the ladder with both hands to stabilize it. "I'll hold it for you." Fu Shiai remained silent, took out a light bulb from his pocket, and replaced it. He felt inexplicably irritated. When he came down, Yunli held the ladder very carefully, fearing he might fall. At first, she didn't notice while holding the ladder. It wasn't until he turned on the light and bent down to pick up his breakfast that she was still in the same position. He reminded her there was no one on the ladder anymore. This was embarrassing. She thought she could finally be of help, but he just went up for a moment. Seeing Yun Li's embarrassment, Fu Shiai's was considerate. He turned his face to check the lights above and finally started eating his breakfast. Suddenly, Yun Li started addressing him formally again, making Fu Shiai's frustration reach its peak. If she wanted to help, just help. They weren't strangers. Was it necessary to put him on such a high pedestal? Imitating her tone, he said, "No need for your help." Yunli was stunned by this sudden formal address. Then, learning her lesson, she smiled and said, "Then you eat your breakfast first." Tonight's moon was still very aloof. If possible, she wanted to see him smile. After finishing breakfast, the two of them inspected the equipment in the experience hall. Yunli saw a machine that required making corresponding expressions according to prompts. She originally thought it would be simple, but when she made an excited expression, the machine didn't buy it. She then made an exaggerated expression at the screen. 100 points. Congratulations. You've surpassed 99% of people who designed such an exaggerated program. They deserve a big X. It's not friendly to people like them who don't have big emotional fluctuations. Wait, she could call Fu Shiai's over to try. Maybe she could see his smile. Just then, he turned his face and saw Yun Li's confused look. This was truly heaven-sent, effortless. She easily tricked him over, but he yawned and only said he'd adjust the sensitivity. This wouldn't do. Why don't you try? Maybe my test results weren't accurate. Opening the game interface, the software immediately began focusing on his face. A new word appeared above his head, overjoyed. Although he tried to slightly raise the corners of his mouth. 10 points. You've surpassed 5% of people. Keep trying harder. Of all people to offend, it had to be this engineer. It's waiting to be overhauled. So Yun Li's little plan failed. Is it over? I thought he'd make a few smiling faces for a high score. Fu Shiai slammed the notebook hard. What? Want to see me perform overjoyed? Admitting it was impossible. No way. Is everything checked? Let's finish up. As they were walking back, Yun Li did something very embarrassing. On the way, she saw a game off-road motorcycle. Childhood memories suddenly flooded her mind. Fu Shiai saw the interest in Yun Li's eyes and let her try it. This made Yun Li more excited. She recounted memories of playing with friends in the past. By the way, she wanted to know about Fu Shiai's experiences then. As a result, his childhood was spent with Fu Zhengqiu. To be precise, he played house with Fu Zhengqiu. Suddenly, their childhood discussion about who would be dad and mom flooded into Yun Li's mind. Such a scene seemed cute no matter how she thought about it. Beside her, Fu Shiai's reminder to operate the game sounded. But when she opened the game, the character options only had 3 choices: spouse, parent-child, and lovers. This made Yun Li very awkward. Spouse and lovers were too ambiguous. so she reluctantly chose the middle option, parent-child. At least it could make do. Fu Shiai's heard her explanation and seemed thoughtful. Then he slowly walked behind her and touched her. The screen had a next page. If there's a next page, there must be. Suddenly being so close made her heart race. Tonight's moon was smiling. It turns out being held by him felt quite nice. But before that, the situation was quite awkward for a while. After difficultly choosing the parent-child option, they still had to choose the specific parent-child relationship. Feeling Fu Shiai's urging gaze, Yunli felt so embarrassed she wanted to disappear on the spot. Having finally chosen the option, ready to start, Fu Shiai's suddenly tapped the motorcycle's footrest. Because the game will shake a lot, you need to wear a seatbelt. I'll fasten it for you. For some reason, when Yunli heard this, her mind wandered. She imagined herself being tied up with colorful ribbons. So Yunli likes this kind of thing. Coming to her senses, she pretended to be calm and thanked him. In reality, her mind was about to collapse. What am I thinking about? But facing someone she likes, especially Fu Shiai's top-tier looks, you really can't blame Yunli for her wild imagination. While he was fastening the seatbelt, she noticed that although Fu Shiai's was slim, he didn't seem weak. He could even be described as what her best friend called a lean muscle man. Seeing Yunli staring at him, Fu Shiai's thought he had fastened it too tight. This made Yunli feel ashamed once again. Yunli, you're really going to die. He's kindly helping you fasten the safety belt, and you're here indulging in his good looks. Later, although they were operating two separate devices, when they entered the game, they were shocked. She found herself sitting behind Fu Shiai's because the parent-child mode defaulted to sharing one vehicle. And the scene was so realistic that Yunli quickly moved back, not daring to be so close to him. The system promptly reminded, "Little one, please hold on to Dad's waist to avoid falling off the bike." Fu Shiai's also turned back to ask if she was ready. At this moment, Yunli's heartbeat was thunderous. She only dared to lightly hold onto his clothes. Although she knew it was virtual, visually, it felt so real that she didn't dare to hug him. However, as the game started, the VR's physical sensation hit her, forcing Yunli to reach out and hold on, otherwise she would fall off the bike. Moreover, there was a group of monsters rushing towards her. As Fu Shiai shouted to hold on, the bike landed steadily. Yunli slowly opened her eyes to peek, discovering that the distance between her and Fu Shiai's had actually decreased. Looking at the broad back in front of her, she couldn't help but want to get closer. After all, it's just a game, so it seemed okay to secretly hug him a little. Feeling the movement around his waist, Fu Shiai's discreetly glanced down. A surge of joy welled up inside him, and he couldn't help but smile slightly. Tonight's moon was approachable and gentle. The game was successfully completed under Fu Shiai's lead. At the end, they didn't forget to sprinkle a bit more sweetness. Because Yunli played the role of a child, she was carried off the bike by Fu Shiai's, who was playing the father. At this moment, they were holding each other's hands. The feeling was so real. Although the system prompted to take a photo as a memento, today's progress had already exceeded Yunli's expectations. It was okay not to take a photo. She would keep this experience forever in her heart. That night, back at home, her best friend video called to check on her work situation. Yunli told her everything that happened today. Hearing that beneath Fu Shiai's cold exterior, he actually had such a considerate heart, her likability score almost maxed out. Later, when mentioning them watching football together, her friend suddenly brought up that he had participated in a robot football competition in high school. Yunli pondered for a moment, having almost forgotten this memory. Actually, Yunli and Fu Shiai's had met before. Back then, as a first-year high school student, Yunli watched Fu Shiai's operate a robot in a competition and became intensely interested. She risked being scolded harshly by her father to participate in the technology festival held at that time. However, dreams and reality are two different things. Only when operating did she realize how difficult it was. No matter how she controlled the remote, this dull, four-legged bun remained motionless. If it were to race an ant, even the ant would be faster. This gave Yunli a headache. Crouching down to look at it, a whole day had passed. Forget pushing stones, it could barely walk. How could she win like this? And she had said she'd prove herself to her dad. Little did she know, someone had been watching her all day. It was an energetic boy and his friend. But because of shyness, they hadn't come over. Yunli looked in the direction the boy was pointing. A boy of her age was sitting there. But because of the distance, she couldn't see his face clearly. Actually, the boy had no ill intentions. He came over to help Yun-Li solve her problem. However, his poor choice of words made Yun-Li dislike him, thinking he was from another team trying to spy on them. But she accidentally saw the badge in his pocket. It turned out he was a top student from West Tech University, specially invited by the school to be the technical team leader for this science festival. Luckily, she hadn't said anything too rude. Otherwise, it would have been truly embarrassing. The boy didn't seem to mind, though. Instead, he thoughtfully took out a small football decoration from his pocket to replace the heavy stone. This warm gesture made Yun-Li regain her confidence. However, the robot got stuck at that moment. Both of them were confused by this sudden situation, so the boy suggested he try operating it. When handing over the remote, Yun-Li was still a bit worried. But under the boy's operation, the robot started moving. He also kindly taught her how to operate it and what to pay attention to. Until this moment, the boy sitting nearby finally breathed a sigh of relief. His mood gradually brightened along with Yun-Li's emotional change. His smile showed that Fu Shiai's at that time was indeed as cheerful and radiant as in Yun-Li's memory. The moon was once very close to me, but by the time I realized it, he had already gone far away, while Yun-Li was still immersed in the joy of success. The boy had already accomplished his task and walked towards his friend. When she saw the word unique on his back, it was last year's robot competition champion team. Her heart leaped with joy. Could it be that he had come too? When Yun-Li excitedly stood up, wanting to call out to them, the two of them had already walked away shoulder to shoulder. After hanging up the phone with her best friend, Yun-Li held her phone, lying helplessly on the sofa. There was certainly regret, but fortunately, she had won a small golden cup after the competition. Although her ranking wasn't high, it at least proved that the memory was real. The trophy and football were well preserved. Suddenly, her heart tightened. She couldn't remember where she had put the robot. She had to quickly call home and ask her brother to look for it. At this time, Yun-Yi had just finished showering. Receiving his sister's call, he jokingly said it must be raining red. Yun-Li heard her brother's teasing, but had no mood to settle scores with him. Finding the robot was more urgent. So, Yun-Yi entered his sister's room with confusion to search. After rummaging through everything, he finally found it in a drawer. At the same time, Yun-Li discovered there was also a blue envelope inside. She quickly asked Yun-Yi to send it along with the trophy and the small football beside it. Yun-Yi didn't notice anything unusual about his sister. Instead, he was concerned about her relationship with the family, asking when she would come home for a visit. It was impossible for her to go back now. Yun-Yi looked at the darkened phone screen, greatly shocked. Wow, what an ungrateful woman. The next day, Yun-Li's work was relatively free. As soon as she arrived, she accomplished the first thing on her slacking off list. She went to the break room to get water. It was dark inside. She pressed the switch, gently put down the water cup, cautiously walked closer. Did he spend the night at EO? Why didn't he go home to sleep? Last time she saw him, it was the same. Curled up on the narrow sofa, he wasn't sleeping soundly. She instinctively took the nearby clothes to cover him. Her heartbeat slightly quickened. He seemed to have a kind of magic, mysteriously attracting Yun-Li to want to get closer to him, even if she might get hurt. Heaven seemed to understand the pain of a secret crush, timely making the phone on the table sound. Startled awake, Fu Shiai's confusedly opened one eye. Yun-Li met his gaze, her whole body frozen and embarrassed. She nervously stuttered an explanation. Sensing the girl's awkwardness, Fu Shiai's thoughtfully closed his eyes, pretending to be asleep. Yun-Li was surprised by his action. He fell asleep again? Was he awake or not just now? But she breathed a sigh of relief. She was saved, but her inner struggle about him didn't disappear. Reason told her to withdraw her heart, to stop hitting the wall. But it seemed she had never been a rational person. Maybe she could bravely try. What if she really succeeded? Fu Shiai's heard the sound of the door opening and slowly opened his eyes. He caught sight of Yun-Li closing the door. The blush on her face hadn't faded yet, and Fu Shiai saw it all. Tonight's moon was adorned with stars. In his dream, that adorable girl appeared. Yun-Li gently closed the door, her cheeks colored as if she had applied blush. Suddenly, Jiaming's voice scared her half to death. He was holding a cup about to go in for water. This terrified Yun-Li even more. She informed him someone was sleeping inside, so he had to give up. However, he also noticed the blush on Yun-Li's face and joked if there was a sleeping beauty inside. The image of Fu Shiai's lying on the bed immediately flashed in her mind, a sensual and beautiful sight. This made her already blushing face even hotter. She hurriedly explained it was because it was too stuffy inside. She successfully fooled He Jiaming. She didn't dare stay any longer, afraid she might give herself away. But she was stopped and informed that Du Gafei had also joined the company. It was the woman who had tried to chat up Fu Shiai's at the entrance last time and was rejected, making Yunli take the blame. Now she had used connections to get in through the back door. He Jiaming warned Yunli to be careful. Yunli didn't want to have any interaction with her either, but she not only occupied Yunli's workstation, but also shamelessly refused to move when asked. What's worse, she thought Yunli had failed the interview and ended up in HR. The saying, "a shameless person is invincible," was indeed true. It almost made Yunli explode with anger. Moreover, she had already connected with the male colleagues in the company, constantly flirting, smiling left and right, as if afraid others wouldn't know they had something going on. So he intentionally favored her. Du Gafei took advantage of this and climbed up. Qin Galili was nicer, saying, "You want to give her the seat, right?" Thinking she could use moral coercion. Dream on. This is the position Jiaming and Sister Yuning arranged for me. If I remember correctly, my direct supervisor is Sister Yuning, right? Please move. Meanwhile, Fu Shiai's returned to Su Qingsong's office. His entire mental state wasn't good. Su Qingsong jokingly teased, "What's wrong? You look like you've had a nightmare." Fu Shiai's didn't answer immediately. He slowly sat down on the sofa. The dream he just had flashed in his mind. Strangely, Yunli appeared in it, making his heart very uneasy. Why did he dream about her? He heard it wasn't a nightmare, so Su Qingsong continued to ask. Such private information, he naturally couldn't say it out loud. But Su Qingsong's intuition was too accurate. Could it be that you dreamed about a woman? This made his hand pause as he reached for his phone. A blush similar to Yunli's appeared on his face. This look was practically a confession. Really? You had an erotic dream? Tonight's moon laughed again. Learning from Su Qingsong about Yunli being troubled, he initially maintained his expressionless face. After hearing about Yunli's brave actions, he was stunned. In his mind, he pictured Yunli scolding someone with acute fierceness. So this gentle rabbit would bite when pushed too far. However, Su Qingsong didn't notice, focused only on finding out who the beauty in his dream was. Fu Shiai's was exasperated. Why was this person so nosy? In the break room, Yunli realized that a moment of satisfaction led to exhaustion afterward. She had offended someone earlier. Qin Haifeng had been ordering her around all morning, clearly targeting her. This made her realize the dark side of the workplace for the first time. Hearing the door open, Fu Shiai's walked in with a cup. Yunli felt a bit awkward seeing him. She had secretly watched him this morning. Hopefully he didn't notice. Staring at someone while they're sleeping. Where's your morality? Where's your bottom line? However, as the coffee aroma filled the room, Yunli's attention was drawn to it. That coffee smells good. When most people say this, it's a signal that they want to taste it. Hearing Fu Shiai's inquiry, Yunli's heart blossomed, and she nodded vigorously. But realizing her behavior was a bit excessive, she became cautious again. However, Fu Shiai's didn't pay much attention to it. When handing it to her, he asked if she wanted sugar. Yunli asked back, knowing he liked it without sugar. So to match his taste, she also said she didn't like it. But she couldn't fool Fu Shiai's eyes. Yunli felt embarrassed, caught in her own lie. She really didn't like it. Since he didn't cherish the opportunity given, let's see how bitter it really is. The moment Yunli took a sip, she regretted it. She couldn't bring herself to take a second sip. She could only shamelessly ask him for sugar. Fu Shiai's leaned on the table with one hand, looking relaxed. He repeated her words, "You really don't like sugar?" This made Yunli extremely embarrassed. So this is what it feels like to dig your own grave. But admitting it was impossible, she hurriedly changed her words, saying she wanted to try a different taste. Fu Shiai saw through it, but didn't say anything, just handed over the sugar. Then he ignored her and walked towards the door. Yunli said goodbye to him. She tore open the package and poured all the sugar in. Looking at the coffee in the cup with hope, she thought it shouldn't be so bitter now. Tonight, the moon dined with her. Yunli glanced at Fu Shiai's from the corner of her eye, her lips curling up. So working has its benefits too. But before this, she had almost wanted to quit, because Du Gafei and Qin Haifeng were bullying her together. It happened so often that she naturally became dissatisfied and tried to defend herself, but to no avail. But when you're under someone's roof, you have to bow your head. Even if you're resentful, you have to swallow your pride. Looking at this shameless couple, she thought, just wait, someone will deal with you eventually. After delivering the documents, Yunli returned to the break room dejectedly, complaining about the unfairness of the workplace. When she entered the room, she found that Fu Shiai's had already brought back the company's lunch. And now, there was only one lunchbox left. He used his eyes to ask if she had eaten. This put Yunli in a difficult position. After a busy morning, she was starving, but Fu Shiai's presence here likely meant he hadn't eaten either. So Yunli lied. Whether Fu Shiai saw through it or not, he said he had eaten and was just there to make some coffee. As he was about to leave, Yunli felt guilty and apologetic. She should have helped with the lunchboxes at noon. However, Fu Shiai's didn't seem to mind much. At this moment, Yunli stared at the lunchbox on the table. She swallowed, although she suspected that Fu Shiai's had intentionally left it for her without eating. Hunger ultimately won over reason. Even if the sky fell, she had to eat first. To prevent Fu Shiai's from coming back, Yunli took the lunchbox and nervously looked around at the doorway. Making sure no one was there, she quickly moved from the break room to the stairwell. However, after all that hustle, they still ran into each other. She opened the lunchbox. Just as she was about to put food in her mouth, she saw Fu Shiai's coming up with coffee in one hand and eating bread with the other. They unexpectedly bumped into each other again. Yunli felt extremely guilty now. I was quite hungry today, so I ate an extra portion. Fu Shiai's pretended to believe her. He didn't expose the girl's lie. Indeed, his guess was right. He probably had been busy until now to eat, and he even placed the extra coffee he bought next to her. This made Yunli feel flattered. She already felt guilty for eating his lunch. How could she dare to accept his coffee? Fu Shiai's, without blinking, said it was a gift from the store. No wonder Yunli liked this 1,000-year-old ice block. It must be said his thoughtfulness really added points. It instantly soothed Yunli's physical and mental fatigue. Working did have some benefits. She really wanted to get closer to the moon, especially after tasting its sweetness. Even if she was sick, she wanted to see that person. But Yunli waited until it was almost time to leave work and didn't even see a shadow of him. Disappointment and the torment of illness finally wore her down. But just as she was packing up to leave, Qin Haifeng appeared with overtime tasks. No matter how much Yuli coughed at her desk, he turned a deaf ear. But what could she do as a small fry? She could only resign herself to her fate and sigh. She muddled through until 8 o'clock like this, thinking he must be working overtime too, probably too busy. But when she looked up, she was almost infuriated to death. Good grief, he had been playing cards for these 2 hours. Even as a department senior, this was no way to bully people. Yunli stood up decisively. Now let me show you what real card playing is. Suddenly, the figure that made her heart flutter appeared before her eyes. It was Fu Shiai's, whom she had waited for all day without seeing. He softly called out from behind, "Having fun?" This scared the guilty Qin Haifeng half to death. He immediately used his body to block the evidence and tried to justify his actions. But seeing it wasn't his boss, he became angry. Fu Shiai's looked down at him, not continuing, seeing he showed no remorse. Mind your own business. Refusing the easy way, he chose the hard way. With a click, Fu Shiai's took a photo of the evidence. He raised his phone, swiping through group chat interfaces in front of him. Posted in the group? Which group? Indeed, this trick was very effective. It put Qin Haifeng in his place. He then calmly turned to urge Yunli to leave work. But Yunli complained that she hadn't finished her work. That was easy to solve. He simply handed it over to Qin Haifeng. With this leverage, he probably wouldn't dare bully Yunli anymore. Fu Shiai's heroic rescue made Yunli's heart flutter wildly. But soon it would stop fluttering, because her best friend couldn't reach her phone. Thinking Yunli might have passed out at home while sleeping, she anxiously contacted Xiat Songsheng, who lived nearby, to check on her. Yunli, who had promised her friend not to go to work, panicked. She asked Fu Shiai's not to disclose anything. "No need to tell me, because the situation is already blown up." This was also why he came to the company so late. Because Xiat Songsheng didn't have time, he called Fu Zhengqiu to help. After ringing the doorbell for a long time with no response, and unable to contact the property management, he anxiously called a locksmith. Upon entering and finding no one inside, he feared being accused of illegal entry. Crucially, in his search, he even lifted Yun Li's blanket. He was also afraid of being seen as a pervert. Really, this goofball. Yun Li laughed to ease the awkwardness. She didn't expect that rushing to meet deadlines and not responding to messages would cause Fu Zhengqiu to create such a big misunderstanding. Suddenly, The goofball sent another message, worried that Yunli might have fainted on the way, suggesting to ask the police for help. This scared Yunli, who grabbed Fu Xiai's clothes to stop him. No, no, no. Tell him to quickly reply to Fu Zhengqiu to prevent him from causing an even bigger mess. But often in panic, it's easier to make mistakes. Just say we're together. Fu Xiai's, who usually had an icy expression, finally showed a change at this moment. The closest distance to the moon was indeed becoming his colleague. In just a few days since joining, they had already eaten together. He had also dealt with a colleague who liked to bully others. Now, he was even personally escorting her home, although it was just a favor to take care of her sick body that came to work. But one should be content. Wasn't this a very good progress? But now they needed to quickly use Fu Xiai's phone to send a message to Fu Zhengqiu. She's with me. I'll take her home. How did it feel like this explanation would make things worse? Luckily, Fu Zhengqiu didn't think too much of it, so they had another chance to be alone. Yunli didn't want to waste such a good opportunity. She suggested walking slowly back to Kalixiang so she could stay by his side a little longer. During the walk, facing Yunli's attempts at conversation, Fu Xiai still maintained his icy personality. But Yunli was already used to it and didn't mind much. The night market was lively. One of the vendors called out to them, selling sparklers. Few girls could resist the temptation of sparklers, and Yunli was no exception. The vendor was delighted seeing Yunli's excited look. Handsome guy, buy a box for the beautiful lady? Sparklers suit fairies best. Hearing the vendor's words made Yunli shy. I can pay for it myself. But after paying, she remembered that Fu Xiai's was here to take her home. However, she really wanted to play with them, so she looked at Fu Xiai's with hopeful eyes, seeking his approval. Perhaps she didn't even realize it herself, but her tone revealed a hint of coquetry. In the end, Fu Xiai's couldn't bear to refuse her. They stopped by a fountain, holding the sparklers. Yunli couldn't help but share her childhood memories with Fu Xiai's. That mid-autumn festival, he bought a lot of fireworks with money he had saved for half a year. But just as he started playing with his younger brother, they were confiscated by the city management uncle. Afraid that his sister would be sad, Yunyi clung to the man's leg and wouldn't let go. Even now, thinking about it still makes her happy. Looking back, Fu Xiai still had the same expression. But it didn't matter. It was already great that he was willing to accompany her. Can I borrow your lighter? The distance between them was a bit far. Fu Xiai softly called her to come closer. But Yunli misunderstood. The image of him speaking in her ear that night suddenly flashed in her mind. Her heart skipped a beat. She slowly moved a step closer to him. Fu Xiai was speechless, watching her actions. He clarified again that he meant for the sparkler to be closer. Yunli immediately bent down embarrassedly, holding the sparkler in front of him. She was mortified, wondering what nonsense she had been thinking. Even so, the distance was still a bit far. The wind blowing between them easily extinguished the flame. So, Fu Xiai had to take it from Yunli's hand. Without the wind interfering, the sparkler was quickly lit. To prevent another small accident, Fu Xiai seriously instructed Yunli to hold it properly. Looking at the shining sparks before her, the joy welling up in her heart quickly washed away the earlier embarrassment. Yunli happily held the sparkler, waving the light, illuminating the space between them. Soon, the one in her hand burned out. Clearly, Yunli didn't feel satisfied with this short time. She hadn't finished her drawing yet. Fu Xiai promptly handed over the one he had just lit. Fu Xiai's thoughtfulness made Yunli want to understand him more. However, it unexpectedly triggered memories hidden deep in Fu Xiai's heart. He had also played with sparklers with his childhood friend. That was once a beautiful memory too. But the more beautiful the past, the greater the impact on him. Suddenly, the fountain behind them also turned off its lights at this moment. Although Yunli was a bit confused, she still didn't want to go back. When she sat back down beside Fu Xiai's, she finally noticed something was off with him. He was fine just now. Why did he suddenly become like this? Was he too bored? Yunli thought it was her fault. She quickly changed her mind and started walking towards the residential area to avoid making Fu Xiai's angry. She feared he might ignore her in the future.